100% pure footy.
Pure footy. Pure footy.
You're with Grandstand.
Live and commercial free.
Grandstand AFL.
Grandstand AFL.
Does well, throws it on the face. Straight on the face.
Straight out of the middle, runs a long way, kicks it a long way, and kicks it straight.
Grandstand AFL.
Grandstand AFL.
Gets the hand pass away from 30, kicks their sixth of the quarter.
They need a kicker. The kicker is Frawley. He snaps. He goes.
Welcome to live and commercial-free coverage of the AFL. You're with Grandstand. On ABC Local Radio and on ABC Grandstand Digital.
ABC Grandstand Digital.
Could this be the bookend that ends Richmond's 2014 campaign, or is there more to be written? On June 20th, a Friday night in Melbourne, it was pretty wet and sloppy, not dissimilar to conditions here at the Olympic Stadium in Sydney. The Tigers led the Swans by 26 points during the second quarter, but the Swans came back in a low-scoring game. It was 9-7, an 11-point win to the Sydney Swans that night, and it left the Tigers at 3 wins and 10 losses. Since then, they're undefeated. They've won 8 in 8 games straight, and in pretty good form as well. They're not just getting over the line, they're winning with a bit of confidence, a bit of power. Well led in the middle by big Ivan Maric, and he's got a youngster up against him today, a first gamer, Sam Naismith. And in even bigger news for the Swans, there's no Lance Franklin. Yet again, a late withdrawal, the knee soreness that has troubled him. The Swans have decided there's no point risking him. Top spot is theirs, so Franklin will not play. Along with that, no Kennedy, no McGlynn, no Bird. And it's Mike Pike who is out due to illness, and that is the spot that Sam Naismith takes. The Tigers, well, they're pretty much at full strength. They get Dustin Martin back after a week's rest from a slight hamstring twinge. And that power midfield of Delidio, Cochin, Martin and several others is back together again. They don't mind their chances on a wet night, the Tigers, and that's what it'll be as drizzle sweeps, possibly a bit more than drizzle, just as we introduce you to this call here at the Olympic Stadium. It's going to be a wet night. And the Swans, well, Zach Jones comes in to replace Lance Franklin, so a relatively inexperienced lineup for Sydney today. Their bench will be Lloyd, Biggs and Mitchell. Mitchell, of course, has been linked with other clubs as he toils away in the reserves for the Sydney Swans. So what a massive stage is set. The Swannies don't have much to play for, but you know what the Bloods' pride is like. They're not going to make it easy for Richmond. If Richmond win, they play finals. Kelly Underwood, hello.
Hello, Rob Cross. As I say welcome to everyone out there. It's light rain that is falling here and black clouds above us. In fact, we haven't seen the sun in Sydney for about 10 days now, and the lights are on here at the Olympic Stadium. The Swans burst through the banner. In fact, both banners this afternoon paying tribute to the milestone men in this match. So much to play for, but also some individual milestones as well, with Lewis Jetta playing his 100th and Chris Newman, the veteran for the Tigers, bursting through the banner, a big caricature picture of him as he ran through in his 250th. Great news this week as well, Rob, that he has re-signed and will go again next year. So it's not often you come to the football when you see a team that's fighting for their season, fighting for their lives, and just the traffic was at a standstill. Stephen Gillum knows all about that. We'll catch up with him shortly, but just heading out to Homebush this afternoon, traffic was terrible because a big crowd is building here, and it's almost a finals-like feeling walking out around I guess before you entered the stadium, and so many Tigers fans. They're talking about maybe 5,000 of the black, yellow and black army have made their way up. Trains, buses, planes, any sort of way they could get here to Olympic Stadium this afternoon for this one, because when there's hope for Tigers fans, Rob, we know that they'll will and truly get here.
Kel, indeed, and what a great entree, a delicious entree on Grandstand AFL this afternoon from the MCG, and there are a few people in the box who are a little bit delighted, a little bit disappointed even towards the end of that result, which was a draw, of course, between the Bombers and the Blues. Yet another thrilling game. David Parkin, great to have you with us for this very important match.
I'm delighted, Rob and Kel and Stephen, to get the opportunity to come to Sydney and see a game of great significance for, great significance, I think, for the Richmond fans. The flight up was full of them. It was a sea of yellow and black, and the pilot was smart enough to say, have a good journey and a great win, you Tiger people. And the plane lit up, which I thought was a lovely reaction to the day. And interesting enough, Rob, we've got conditions that, in talking to both Sydney and I guess Richmond people, Richmond were hoping that it would be a little damp, that their performances have been very consistent in this sort of conditions, and from Sydney people I spoke to were anxious that it was a dry, hard ground because their performances were not quite as good. And you know, with the psychology of the game, and Stephen can talk about that, the psychology is that Richmond will know they're better than that, and Sydney will also know that they're worse. So in terms of a twofold psychological advantage, the conditions should also help Richmond.
And David mentioned Steve Gillum, who we thought we might have seen the last of him for this year, but it's great to have you, Steve, for what it could be the best game we've seen all season.
Yeah, absolutely. There we go. Put me on. Looking forward to it. It's very exciting. As David mentioned, probably Sydney, very different team at the ANZ Stadium compared to what they are like at the SCG down the road at their home where they play week in, week out. So, yeah, it's absolutely with the outs that Sydney have got, with the momentum the Tigers have got, bringing that up from Melbourne, all goes well for a good game. Hopefully it's close, and hopefully it's a great game like that one down in Melbourne that we just saw the end of.
Just saw the end of. Yeah, I know, Rob, that you were locked into the television.
It's a good way to warm up, isn't it, watching another game when you've got no real interest in it?
I'm surprised that Parko and Rob both have still got their voices after the cheering that was happening in there.
What about he's put his jumper back on again because he had the Carlton Guernsey up. I can't believe that, Rob. ABC, you're supposed to be totally and utterly balanced about your football.
Oh, yeah, I don't support either of these teams.
You are. Well, I was just thinking, I look at Stephen there and I thought, no, this is not about me, but Stephen played half-back for Hawthorn. There's another bloke in this box who played half-back for Hawthorn. I reckon we might have shared the same number, Stephen.
We did, mate.
I think there's two great players that you have the pleasure of sitting with this afternoon that both played for the Brown and Gold.
And a big week, Stephen, as well, because you did officially announce the retirement. How have the last few days been for you out at the Giants land?
Yeah, mixed emotions, Kelly. Sad to be finishing up, but also excited about what the next chapter holds. And look, I said to the boys that your career does go really quick, and to make the most of it, and that they're going into a really exciting time of their football careers. They've spent 3 years now getting to know what it's about. The next few years is all about performance and having that success as a team, which I know they're all after.
And what about your own future? What you talked about, pathway. Have you determined that? Are you still thinking about it, or have you made up your mind where you're going?
Not 100%, David. I know I want to still be involved at the AFL level. In what capacity, I'm not sure. I'm probably leaning more towards a game development, talent ID pathway, business of footy, particularly up here in Sydney, where it's building really, really well up here, especially out in Western Sydney. Getting the brand out in the community, getting the game out in Sydney is obviously, we've got a lot more work to do out here. So if I could play a role in that somehow, or look, I'm open to staying here or moving back to Melbourne, where an opportunity may lie.
David, what do you think's turned Richmond's season around? Ivan Maric, has one player had enough of a...
He's not just because of what he does as a player, but only from people I know that work there, tell me that he's the heartbeat, he's the catalyst, he's the uniter of the place off the field as well. Genuinely committed man. He does play with everything he's got. He's not the quickest and smartest and cleverest sort of footballer, but he gives of himself in a way that you'd be pleased and proud to be a part of the unit that he plays with. I think they had, and it's been well spoken about, they had a very open discussion halfway through when they were struggling to win games they should have, Rob, and apparently the honesty and openness of that, which clubs who are going to have success have been able to develop. Stephen would know that well, and out of that came a genuine commitment to each other to do something about it, and I think they took the risk. I absolutely believe as a coach, the longer you keep winning, the harder it is to lose. I'm sick of it on the plane of saying, you've got to lose one, or even engineer it. If you've won too many in a row and you're in the finals, engineer it. Absolute poppycock. You've got to keep winning, and it becomes a mindset that says, doesn't matter where they are and where we are and where the scoreboard is today, we'll get them in the finish, and you do. So this 8 week now, as we come up to the 9th week in a row, should be the foundation of them playing good football and being extremely competitive. You've just mentioned where Sydney are. There'd be 5, I think you mentioned them. Kennedy, McGlynn, Bird, Jack probably, Franklin are all missing. That's 25% who would be in this team and playing today if they were available. You would know as Richmond that we've got them at a more vulnerable, not less vulnerable, but a more vulnerable time. So Richmond should come here with a team. I'm a bit concerned about Martin because I think he struggled to get in on the back of the injury. He has to perform. He's so incredibly important to this team. They're playing him forward and not getting him cut about in the midfield where he can't run. So if they make him one out down there, he's the best one out ball winner in the competition, bar none. So if they're able to get it right, feed him in, he's in good body shape and injury doesn't, negate him. They are, in no doubt, in a good position.
Dave Mark, quickly, toss.
Yeah, it was run by Trent Cotchin and the Tigers are kicking to the north.
Naismith it is, the debutant for the Swans. He rises high into Marriage, but the centre clearance will come for the Tigers on the outer wing. This is Edwards, who just hacks it inside 51. Out there is Revolt and Richards. It beats both. Grundy comes through. Played for the free umpire, says no. Revolt's got it right in the pocket, but he misses. Blazes away does Jack Revolt. Tight angle, but the first score, the Tigers kicking, as David Mark said, to the northern end of the Olympic Stadium.
And Dave, tell us about conditions down there.
Well, I'm told, Rob, they're actually pretty good. There's just one area which is on this broadcast where you can probably see it from your box. It's a little bit damp and dark, but otherwise I'm told the ground is very good. But the conditions, yeah, it's going to be drizzly. It's been raining a lot in Sydney, but the ground by all accounts pretty good except for those one or two areas.
Hanbury just took a very strong mark opposed to Edwards. Hanbury didn't play in that round 14 game at the MCG, so he's an important in for the Swans as Reid comes charging out. Went without the football. Parker slung by Edwards. Chaplin fumbled, came to Goods, just pushed it out in the direction of Reid. Lovely gather, the wet footy by Jack, but he's pushed in the side by Newman, who's re-signed, as Pell pointed out during the week. Good play out on the full.
And a good chase down, wasn't it? I mean, that was a good kick going in. Just the force of the impact pushed the ball over the line on the full.
So Newman with the ball in his hands. Adam Good started in the centre. The youngster Miles went to him. He kicks to the ruckman. Marriage out in front. Just out-muscles Naismith on this occasion, and he marks in front of the Tigers bench. Sends it inside 50. Wasn't a great kick, and Richards, the one and only player there. Grundy peeling off behind him, accepts the handball. And then he kicks over Richards' head to Hanbury. Just goes the required distance. Hanbury short on the left, has the lead. Now Chesky marks, still at half-back. Running past him was Shaw. He breaks and then kicks to half-forward, but Martin floating back takes the defensive mark, and the switch kick is on here for the Tigers.
Pretty brave on a slippery deck. Cunningham has almost ripped the ball away from Hooley. Hooley hangs off the ball. Tippett lays a strong tackle on Rance, but Rance shrugs him and wins the free kick. Well, Hooley won one earlier against Cunningham. A little lucky, perhaps, the Tigers. They get away with it. Lots of supporters in yellow and black down at the southern end. The kick from Martin up to the wing. Spoiled away by Rowan on Delidio. Comes to Batchelor, who slipped but got it back to Delidio. Bursts his way through the tackle of Jack. Finds his left boot. Martin alone and unattended on the wing. He will measure the kick and drill a beautiful 20-metre ball down the throat of Griffiths. He's 60 from goal. Left half forward. The leads come. He'll kick it towards the goal square. One-on-one battle there. Smith is there. Pushed away. Thumped away by Nick Smith. Out of bounds. Boundary throw in 5 metres around from the Tiger goal. They did it 0-0. 3 gone first quarter.
That's what Griffiths needs to do on Grundy. Lead up outside footy, outside 50, out the ball.
It's a beautiful kick, so distance is no problem to him.
So ball spins back into play. Marriage gets his hand to it, but only as far as Parker, and then Goods. Quick hands to Richards, to Malcheski. Gets themselves out of trouble. In the back pocket is Smith. And Smith, the clearing kick, only goes as far as Morris for the Tigers. So still too far out to score here for the Tigers. They've been doing all the attacking in the first 3 minutes. Morris opts to just pop it up to the contest. Top of the goal square. Slips through Rampy's hands. Richards at the bottom of the pack. And then it was Rowan who sees it over the boundary line, and will have another throw in, only a few metres around from the Tigers' goal, kicking to the northern end.
Should have hurt them, really. The long kick in's not going to... They've got to use the ball, Richmond, going in, because this is the best complete defence in the competition.
15 metres out from the Tigers' goal. In it comes. Marriage up against the first gamer, Naismith. Diving over the footy was Hanbury. Claimed underneath the pack. Comes to Goods. Throws the ball onto his boot. Jetta gets a handball as he's slung to the turf. Bounces off the chest of Naismith. Met the other way. Jack can't control it. Comes to Ellis. High kick for Richmond. To the top of the square again. Out comes Richards. Tried to mark. Couldn't do so. Quick snap. Griffiths away to the right. And in fact out of bounds on the full. So some relief for the Swans. They're pretty intense as you'd expect the Tigers. 4 gone first quarter. They lead by a point.
Well, two shots like that, both of them Steve, should have been put away.
Yeah, gettable shot so early in the game, so crucial to your confidence when you play away.
So Rampy to bring it back into play for the Swans. The long kick looking for Naismith. This time he was in front of Marriage, couldn't bring it down. Goods goes off the turf and he kicks it about 30 metres, only as far as Batchelor there for the Tigers. Plays on quickly, flicks it out wide to Ellis. It's a one-on-one. A free's been picked out. It might have been a push in the back, was it? It is going to be a Swans ball. No, the umpire's bringing it back. Ellis thinks it is his, and it is.
Hands in the back in the marking
against
contest.
Lloyd. So Ellis to take the free. Send the Tigers forward once again. Slippery conditions out there. It's a slippery ball. Hard to mark as Griffith rises and pulls in a mark.
Over the shoulder to Marrick.
So free played to Marrick, the ruckman in front, and then he's just going to poke it to Griffith in the pocket, but it was Revolt coming late who's marked. So Jack Revolt will have a set shot about a metre outside of the boundary line in the left forward pocket.
This is the fifth or sixth time I think they've been into their 50. Sydney got it in just once, and they're just not making, Stephen, you talk about the confidence it builds. He's got to put this one away.
So Jack Revolt, 54 goals for the season. Buddy Franklin will win the Coleman medal with 67. A late withdrawal here this afternoon. For the first for the Tigers, Jack Revolt splits the middle and he celebrates. He runs 10 metres, he high-fives the teammates. And the Tigers strike through first. 1-1-7 at the Olympic Stadium. The Swans yet to score.
You just sense Richmond have got all the momentum. They've started the better, kicking it inside 50, getting it in long initially. And as you mentioned, David, they're just going to have to be a little bit smarter going inside 50. The Sydney defence and all their midfielders really flood back to counter-attack. But there's going to be momentum shifts in this game. And at the moment, Richmond have really got the game by the scruff of the neck and they really need to make an impact on the scoreboard.
And at Subiaco, Port have kicked a couple of goals clear, 60-48 against the Dockers. The winner of that game will play Sydney in Sydney next week in the first week of the finals. Back in the centre, Richmond have come to play. 1-1-7, 7 minutes gone first quarter. Swans yet to score, have barely been forward. Perhaps a little bit unlucky when they did, that they conceded a free kick right in front of goal. Chasing hard is Jack. Well played by Martin. Slaps to Edwards. Delidio comes barging through, wrapped up in a tackle by Rowan. What a good match-up that is. Both about the 190-centimetre mark. Pretty quick, pretty skillful. And there'll be a ball up at left half forward. Griffiths up against Tippett, having his spell in the ruck. Coming through Vlosten, farms it out. It was looking for Miles, the former Giants player. Back to Delidio's excellent. Back to Miles. Got one high from Mitchell. The umpire's picked it. And so about 80 out on the boundary line. Anthony Miles will send the Tigers forward again. Dominating play at the moment. He points as
got
if he's
Grundy just sitting behind the play, ready for this long kick in.
In it comes, and he's gone right to him. In fact, his teammate many years in defence there, Richards, is the one that backhands it out of bounds for throw-in. 20 metres around from the Tigers' goal. They lead by 7 points.
Well, they might want this in terms of they're good at stoppages in their front half, but useless kick, in my opinion. Too easy to defend.
Rain has stopped at Olympic Stadium, but the lights are on. Dark clouds hovering above. As Ellis tries to get in there, he can't control it, neither can Vlosten. The Swans with the numbers through Reece Shaw at the back of the pack, has a bit of a dash and then kicks out of the danger zone out towards Goods, but it's Grimes that beats him to the footy and marks in front of Adam Goods. 2 kicks out from home. Grimes, a little indecisive, wasn't a great kick. In the end, Chaplin comes through and saves the day momentarily. Gets the handball off to Hooley, drives it long, Revolt flies. Can't quite bring it down again. The Swans with numbers at ground level, although it's picked off by Foley, and he rushes one through, but it misses just to the near side. A flying shot from about 20 metres out. It's all Tigers so far, 8-minute mark of this first term, 1-2-8. Swans yet to score.
Reece Shaw finds the chest of Kieran Jack, right half back, still inside defensive 50. Tigers closing things up. They formed a wall across their half-forward line. Jack's long kick tries to clear it to the wing. Griffiths up in front, though, marks. As Rance was wrestling Reid off the footy, Griffiths floated in front and took a strong grab. So they'll go forward again. Another inside 50 for Richmond. Where's Jack? One-on-one. He's got front spot. Coming into the front position there was Tippett to lend his teammates some assistance. Smith overruns the footy. Still a chance for Richmond. Couldn't get ball to boot Rewalt. Had a ping at it on the left. Hanbury back to McVeigh. The co-captain sends one to Rowan at centre-half back. Handballs back to Reece Shaw. Maybe they're away this time. Kicks into the vacant space up at left half forward. Excellent spoil away by Cunningham. To Reid. Into his back, surely. Not paid. Play on the call. No free kick to Sydney. Disappointed fans. Comes back to Rance, who's the infringer. I was sure he was. Got back to Marriage. Back to Rance. Wanted to go by hand. He's a bit confused at centre-half back. Clever play by Newman. Back to Marriage. Good pressure by the Swans forwards. Comes to Grimes. He kicks it back to the wing.
And it's slapped forward there by Martin. Nice little 1-2. He combines with Batchelor, and then Martin kicks it high on the outer wing. And Ellis out there trying to control the footy, but sees it over the boundary line. We'll have a throw in as the rain decides to tumble again once again.
Kelly, it's actually very light rain, but it's going to make the surface very slippery. It's very apparent down here that Richmond are playing with great intent. We all know they've got a lot to play for.
Yeah, a real appetite for the contest so far. Biggest game of their season. Off hands in the pack. Deledio, the handball for Cochin. A little bit too hot for him. Cochin goes and wins his own footy again. Gets the handball to Grigg. Little toe poke up and under. And now running on to this is Rampy. Putting his body on the line was Revolt. He gets a toe poke kick to Deledio, who just barges his way through and then sends it for home and scores a goal. This is a slashing start for the Tigers. They've kicked the first two. 2-2-14. And the Swans, it's barely been down in their inside 50.
Tell you what, it's got shades of last night's game and Friday night game when Hawthorn started really, really slowly and Collingwood were up and about for probably that first half of that game, and then the Hawthorn machine got clicked into gear. But at the moment, they've got 5 blokes out, and you can really tell that they're out at the moment, David.
They're struggling, Stephen, and it's a 21-9 contested. We've been in the game for, 10 minutes? 21-9. Twice as good in contest.
Subiaco, Fremantle trail Port by 5 points midway through the third quarter. They might be about to hit the lead. In fact, they are. A goal to Fremantle. They're back in front by a point. Great game there. Exciting contest here. Certainly if you're a Tigers fan. Martin just slipped through his hands at centre half forward. Coming at it strongly is the big new ruckman Naismith. Overran the footy. Cochin, 70 out. Drills a little short pass looking for Revolt. Over his head. Little nudge came from Griffiths. Looks for the handball. Gives it off. Another one to Richmond. Revolt's got 2. Tigers on fire at the Olympic Stadium. 3-2-20. Swans yet to score. 12 minutes played.
I'll tell you who's been great. Young Anthony Miles is a kid that I think should be home with his mum and dad. He looks like that with the boy's face and the boy's body. He just continually in heavy traffic, wins, makes a good decision, and his execution might be along the ground, but they always end up in the right spot. He's impressed me enormously over the last month.
I'll tell you what, they're relishing these conditions, Richmond, and Sydney are hating it at the moment, and that's how it looks out on the ground. I mean, Marrick's dominated in ruck in the first game over Naismith at the moment. He's had 5 possessions, leads all the Tigers at the moment. He's really sensed blood in the water with this first game, and he's giving it to him at the moment.
Stephen Gillum on Grandstand AFL. It is the Tigers by 20 points. Inside 50 is 11-2. Now there's a free being picked up off the ball, was it?
Yeah, somebody over the line, I think, or whatever, or certainly out the back.
Well, everything's going Richmond's way, and the free has gone to Marriage, who doesn't waste any time. Bombs it long. Off hands. Oh, Edwards read it beautifully, but then the kick just slews off the side of the boot because it is a slippery ball and really hard to control. Could have almost run in there to an open goal.
Well, Kel, and it does. If it gets out, it's harder to get the scores back. 4 or 5 goals in these conditions, very difficult to regain.
Lovely intercept mark at full tilt there by Basher Hool. He's got it out at right half forward. He's 55 out. Will set it up beautifully to the top of the goal square. Working his way to the front was Griffiths. Over the top, third man up, Malcheski. Burst through the hands of Richards. Waiting for the crumb at ground level. Strong tackling by the Tigers forwards. Their crummers are waiting for the ball to be farmed out. Hanbury lays a tackle, one of those ones where it can sometimes get paid in the back. That one wasn't. And there'll be a ball up, 20 outs.
Every Swan player almost within the opposition's 50, defending grimly.
13 and a half gone first quarter, 21 plays. Zip, Miles, snap from 30, there's another one! Richmond rolling here to a finals berth, you'd think. Halfway through the first quarter, they're dominant. 4-3-27, Swans, zip, zip, zip.
Well, Stephen, you'd see it better than I do in terms of structure. There were 4 Sydney players on the goal side, Richmond goal side. The open space on the defensive side was where Miles set up. He got it clean and clear, not a body or a person anywhere near, and he had the time to gather, take time and execute it. A fantastic effort.
It's 2 things. It's the ruckman that's so important in those defensive 50 stoppages. He's not there for Sydney, that's Pike. And Josh Kennedy, who's your number one contested footy, tackler, disposal winner, he's not there either. So they're really, in all sorts around the stoppages at the moment.
At the moment, we're seeing one team that's got everything to play for and one team that's got absolutely nothing to play for as Naismith gets his hands to it in the middle, but it's Jack off the left boot. Only about 15 metres. Goods flew, couldn't control it, and then Richmond out of the pack, and in front, Mark goes to Griffiths. Now, he's a booming kick, and he doesn't waste any time getting back there, top of the goal square. It's dangerous. Richards off hands. Revolt a goal! They've got the first 5, the Tigers. Revolt's got 3, and they're in for the quick kill at Olympic Stadium.
Well, Kel, in that case there, because they do play, it's important to get on quickly so that Sydney don't have the chance to set. And it got in there with a 2-on-2, 2 running at the front, 2 in the contest at the top, and it got out free. It dropped beautifully for Jack. No doubt it dropped beautifully for him. But in the finish, the speed of entry got Sydney. They weren't able to set and structure as they would want to.
Yeah, where Sydney is so good is they push all their numbers behind the footy. They usually free up a defender. It's usually Grundy or Richards who's able to fly over the top, third man into the contest and kill it. At the moment, they're having to defend grimly because they're just getting smashed in the middle of the ground. When they've been so good is when their defenders look good, but at the moment, they're all at sea.
Well, Kel, on this track, 32 goals to nothing. They might miss top spot the way they're going. As the Swans do go forward eventually, it's still outside 50. McVeigh tried a clever little tap to an oncoming teammate. He couldn't gather the football. Now chance through Biggs. His handball looking for Kieran Jack was held far too long in the tackle, and the Swans will win a free kick. And there's some real aggro intent.
Silly ball.
He wanted to go on with it. Kieran Jack wins the ball, 70 out, left half forward.
Well, 150 from me, I'll tell you in that.
Kicks it in towards the pockets. Parker's the dangerous player. He goes up, couldn't take the mark. He's always the one that when they target the big men, Parker will slide in. There's a brilliant smother on the kick from Malcheski. And the ball goes out of bounds. Over in the west, Freo kicked away a little bit. They now lead Port by 13 points in the third quarter. Here at the Olympic Stadium, though, 16 and a half gone. Tigers 33, Swans yet to score.
So a ball and throw in on the outer side, right where the 50 meets the boundary line. We're up Sydney's end, the Parramatta Road end. Marich easily straight down the throat of Cochin, who goes for the safety of the boundary line. A couple of players out there in Griffiths and Grundy, happy to see it over, and another throw in.
I really think if you're Sydney, you contemplate getting that third man up at the stoppages at throw-ins. He's just being dominated, Naismith, and that's where they're getting their drive from. Marrick's just giving him first use.
You've just joined us on Grandstand AFL. 17-minute mark of the first term. The Tigers 5-3-33. Swans yet to score, and there is no Buddy Franklin out there as the ball's just rolls, dribbles over the boundary line again. Wet conditions, lights are on. Dark clouds looming. The rain has just stopped.
Got to get the front position, Naismith. His height's the only real advantage. He's got no maturity, no size in a sense, bulk to do it. He needs to get in front and try and hold his ground and work it from there. And he's been doing that in the last couple because he's been, you're right, totally eclipsed at this minute.
So blood rule here for Brett Delidio. So he's forced to run from one side of the ground to the other. That's why we've got the break in play. David Mark, you're down on the boundary. Just a bit of blood stemming from the eye of Delidio, the eyebrow.
Just from his left eye, Kelly. I don't think it's anything serious, but I'll just see if I can have a closer look. Just, Kelly, while we mention it, the crowd is probably 90-95% Swans here, but there's still enough Richmond supporters to make a fantastic atmosphere. They're very loud.
So Marich went with it at both hands, only as far as Biggs for the Swans. Swooping is Rampy, gets a kick away just in time to Shaw, who has switched it from one side to the other. This is Towers marking it a half forward. Goes back, assesses the options. We've only been inside 50 a handful of times for the Swans. Short to Goods, really forced to use his body then, and he did well, and then he launches it to the top of the goal square. It's all Richmond. Marich takes the mark. It's uncontested in the end, and the Tigers ready to move it quickly.
Batchelor marks between the left back pocket and left half back at the southern end. In front of the Tiger faithful. Kicks to Hooley, allowed to take the mark. Grimes just slid under the footy, let his teammate snaffle it. Defensive side of the wing, western side of the Olympic Stadium. 5-3-33 Richmond with 3 to Revolt. Love's coming up here. Was it 10 or 11 against the Giants?
11. He needs
don't remind me.
He needs 13 to equal Buddy's Coleman.
Well, he's on hot pace. Off to Martin. Floats across half back. Dangerous here, although Chapman, it was beautifully weighted, and he marks in front of Tippett.
They're going to have to play this style of game, uncontested marks, because Sydney have sent Sam Reid back behind the play.
So Chaplin goes towards the wing. Foley in front of Rowan, sees it bounce off his thigh and goes out of bounds at interchange gate. And there'll be a throw in. 33-0, 19 and a half gone first quarter.
Already today at the MCG, we saw the first draw of the season between Carlton and Essendon. Tigers fans won't be getting too carried away just yet. I think the Blues led by 5 goals, and then the Bombers came back and led by 5 goals before it finished in a draw. And there's a long way to go in this one. 8 minutes left remaining in the first quarter. Broadcast wing, ball up. Marich goes in the air and then at ground level. Gang tackle, breaks his hands free, able to get a handball away only as way as Martin. He's tackled, he goes again, does Martin. Pettard's in there fighting hard. So too is Parker, it's pretty fierce. Standing up in the tackle. Now Morris somehow gets it to Deledio, who's just come back on the ground with a bandaged head. And then the kick from Cochin to half forward. Flying early was Grundy. He couldn't read it best. Ball hits the deck. Going the toe poke was Revolt, but he didn't get a clean possession, and swooping was Rampy. And now through Malcheski. They're not out of the danger zone here. Nick Malcheski for the Swans. The defensive 50 goes with the left foot. The delivery was beautiful. Slipped straight through the hands of Goods and a free. It was a push in the back. It's coming back to Goods. He's got a loose player out wide. He goes sideways. It's Lloyd that marks. So Lloyd on the City wing, short to Cunningham. He dropped what he should have taken, and it allows the Tigers to maybe effect a turnover here, although they pile in. And a free's been picked out, and this time it is going to Cunningham. It was a push in the back. He gives it off to Biggs, sends it inside 50. Tippett is the target. Tippett in front, can't quite bring it down off the ground. I think it was Jack back there, but the Tigers should be able to see it over the boundary line, and they do. Lloyd playing for the free, but he doesn't get it, so it'll be a throw-in inside 50 for the Swans.
Well, this is the kind of game in the kind of conditions that we have that will suit Richmond.
At Subiaco, 13-point lead to the Dockers, closing in on three-quarter time. Tip it up against Marich. Marich to Ellis at front of the pack. Comes to Grigg, the former Blue. His handball back in front of Ellis, who picked up the awkward bouncing ball and gains 50 metres towards the western wing. Grundy tracks the ball back, comes up with it, sweeps the handball back into Towers, off to Grundy. Grundy lapped well there, overlapped well. Came to Reid, low kick, hits the chest of Hanbury. Marks in the middle of the Olympic Stadium. Reece Shaw says, just slow things down. They still haven't scored. 22 minutes gone first quarter. The premiership favourites, the top team. They've got a few out. Franklin, Kennedy, McGlynn, Bird, Pike all missing, but you can't fault Richmond's endeavour. They're playing for a spot in the finals and making a really good fist of it. Revolt has 3, the Tigers have 5. They lead by 33 at the 22-minute mark of the first quarter. At Subiaco, it's a 12-point lead to the Dockers. Earlier today, a draw, 90 apiece. The Blues and the Bombers at MCG. Off the side of the boot goes Parker. It's still 60 from the Swans' goal. Great tackle by Jetta, holding the football. No, finally comes out. Hanbury comes up with the ball, or is it an obscured extra number 4 there? Lloyd, I think it was. The mud here at the Olympic Stadium. Not too much of it. Here's a chance for Malcheski. Sweeping ball to Shaw. Back inboard to Lloyd. He's 70 out from goal. Kicks the ball wide to Jetta off the side of the boot, but Jetta's got time to gather. Cruising by Richards, ignores him, kicks a beautiful ball to Parker, sandwiched between 3 Tigers, and he'll win a free kick for being squashed into the turf, I think. Advantage paid. McVeigh runs onto it. And guess what, folks? The Swans have a score. Their first of the afternoon. It's a goal. They trail by 27 points.
Oh, a bit sad, Steve, because 3 Richmond players determined didn't need the 3, but all saw it coming. 3 versus 1. Cleaned each other up. I think I'm right in the way I saw it. They cleaned each other up and their opponent at the same time. What became the easiest, well, it was almost a gimme to Sydney. Not really won in a sense, but lost by Richmond.
Yeah, they're going to have to work really hard, Sydney, to score. The state of the game now, it's wet. Tigers have got 5 on the board already. They're happy with the 1+1 defensive side of the centre. What Sydney need to do is draw that guy out, and that's what they did. They had to go sideways at times. In the end, Jetta got it into Parker, and Richmond made a bit of a meal of it.
So it's Griffiths and Towers, I think it was, in the ruck just then. Griffiths wins it, and Jack's in there trying to get it. Parker applies a tackle once again. Another scrum forms and we'll have a ball up. Swans just do not look switched on. 24-minute mark of this opening term. The Tigers 33, the Swans 6. This time Tippett comes in and assists in the ruck, but the Rushed kick came from the Tigers off hands. It falls to Deledio about 70 out. It's a high up and under. Camped at the drop is Richards. And in fact, it's Reid rather, and he does really well because there are a couple of Tigers players bearing down. Sam Reid handballs backwards. Grundy, well, his kick missed everyone and rolls out of bounds. A couple of Tigers fans put their arms up to call for deliberate on that one. But the umpire says no. So a throw in. Half forward here for the Tigers.
Kelly, what the Tigers are doing so well is stopping the Swans' easy run out of the back line. They're just playing with that great intensity that we mentioned earlier.
Tippett up against Griffiths at left half forward for Richmond. Miles monstered by a couple of Swans. Mitchell over the top, Hanbury from beneath, and it'll be a ball up.
Still 34-22 in contested possession. Unless Sydney make that up significantly, they can't win the game in my opinion.
Tippett won the tap. Oh, taken high was Miles, and he win a free kick. Again, storming his way through the pack and deserving that ball. He's 80 out. He'll switch play back into the centre and got Chaplin. Chaplin wants his left. Side steps Naismith, who just did enough to dislodge the footy. Hooley, another one who likes his left. Got it off to Morris. Pokes one in towards the forward pocket, but Reid marks for the Swans in the last line of defence. Wants to handball quickly to Shaw. Fumble there from Shaw. I think he was past Reid before the handball arrived. Kicks up towards half-back. Richards has the kick spoiled away. Comes to Smith. Clever kick around the corner. And Naismith, first disposal in league footy, is a mark. He's got it at left half-back. He wants to go by hand. He does. The Swans through Smith. Low kick up towards Lloyd.
Out here.
He marks. Can send it up towards half-forward. Good call, Steve Gillam. He's all alone about 60 out. Can loop one over the top to McVeigh. Little chip kick further down the line. Towers has front spot. Up goes Towers. Spoiled away cleverly there by Batchelor. Batchelor goes hard at the ball and kicks it really cleverly around the corner and finds Ellis. The Tigers break off half-back.
And Ellis's kick is pinpoint straight down the line. Taking the mark is Gordon, and then he takes off. Revolt short. Defensive spoil was good from Smith. And in fact, Rampy, who sees it over.
That's what annoys me about Jack. I mean, he just needed to come hard and through the ball. He jumped up and sort of floated in and allowed the backman to get his fist in. That's not good enough for somebody who's played as long and is supposedly as committed as he should be. And
they were on then as well, David Parkin, if Revolt had been able to mark and move it inside 50 again. 33 plays 6. Tigers lead it. 26-minute mark of the first term. Goods. Only as far as Miles. The Tigers with the numbers. Cochin to Foley. Kicked straight into Malcheski, who was standing a metre away, and then the ball ricochets over the boundary line. A throw in front of the Swans bench.
Dave Mark hit the beard. He should be okay.
Yeah, Kelly. Rewald has come off. He's got another cut on his left eye, exactly the same spot that Delidio had one, so he'll be patched up.
Marich in front. Cochin gets a handball away. Who can get there first? Edwards. He's been held, goes at it with one. Malcheski comes through. Just gets a kick away. It's a bouncing ball in front of the Tigers bench. Grimes can't control it. It's a slippery deck. Batchelor's in there. So too is Cochin. Boot to ball. It's a really messy passage of play here. Putting his body on the line was Edwards. He can't get a clean possession away. Now Goods through traffic. Charges through. Kicks it into vacant space inside 50. How will it sit for Tippett? Tippett's there. And his teammates come and a push in the back. It's a Tigers ball. It was against Lloyd. It's Morris that takes the free.
Well, those wet weather footies, Morris wanted it and he was chasing hard. Was pushed from behind, over the head there. A couple of wrestling players in Marich and Naismith. Rowan comes up with it. Worm-burning pass on the bounce to Malcheski. Slick hands to Jack. Malcheski's dealt with awfully after the ball had gone past. Lovely mark by Tippett on the stretch in wet conditions. The pass was well drilled by Jack, but Tippett had to make it good as well. He's got it inside 50.
I reckon he's done well there to have the player on 45 out instead of 50. He juggled that all the way to the arc.
Oh, I've got to say the same thing. And Rancy knew, didn't he? Rancy knew. This bloke's cheating. Don't help him.
Tippett for his first and just the Swans' second of the evening. 5-3 plays one straight. 28 and a half gone. He's gone pretty close, but it's touched right on the line. Marich was the only player on the last line. No Swans there to try and shepherd him off the footy. It's off his fingertips. The Swans get it behind. 1-1 plays 5-3.
That's just a fundamental that they're just not quite switched on. It's just that's a sign there, right there, that they usually have someone on the line to shepherd that through.
Nothing going right for the Swans at all. It's Newman to himself, and then as long as he possibly can go, ball rolls out of bounds.
That's just an attitude, a work rate thing, Stephen, isn't it? I think I'm right in saying
and
that.
And a leadership thing. Like Sam Naismith's got to be the one down with Marriott contesting that footy, trying to shepherd it through.
Ball spinning back into play. Here is Naismith, straight down the throat of Jack. That's better. Jack with the left foot. Can't hit up a teammate inside 50. We're at centre-half forward. Morris slides in, and Morris, now this could be an interesting free. It's going to the Swans because of that sliding rule where Morris slid in and Lloyd will take the free.
He only we call it a trip or the slide.
Well,
I don't know.
He took the legs out.
Yeah,
Lloyd plays on quickly. Tippett on the lead. He honours the lead, and Tippett marks on his chest about 40 metres out. And pretty much directly in front. Another set shot here coming up for Kurt Tippett.
Yeah, Rance going off there. He just needed his mate Pettit to stand in his leading lane. It was the only place he could get the ball and lead up. He's got every right to be going bananas there. Had enough time to flood back in Richmond to get everyone inside that defensive 50 to make it really hard.
So Kurt Tippett pretty much directly in front. He steps over the 50 and he likes it off the boot. And he converts a much-needed goal for the Swans. Their second of the afternoon. It comes at the 30-minute mark of the opening term. But it's the Tigers that lead at 5-3-33. The Swans 2-1-13.
Just lost their way a little bit, Richmond, with fighting with that numerical and just their composure exiting defensive 50. It seems that they're just blazing away a little bit, and Sydney are able to butter up and go back inside 50. I mean, they had an uncontested possession with about 2.5 minutes to go. They should have been good enough to just wind down the clock, play percentage footy around the boundary, just lock it up, be happy to get stoppage after stoppage and go in with a really good lead.
Well, it was 13. Sorry, Steve, but it was 13-7 inside 53 minutes ago. It's now 15-12.
It was 11-2 early on.
Yep.
Dave, any breeze, did you mention?
Oh, look, it's just swirling around, Rob, but there's really very little.
Naismith won the tap, got the handball away, and then copped one in the face from his teammate McVeigh, who tried to sock it off the ground. Naismith fights on at ground level, still on his knees, the big man, so he's down from 205 centimetres to about 167. And the ball will come back to the umpire. We'll have another ball up. Over in the west, it is Fremantle kicking away a bit. They lead by 21 points, closing in on three-quarter time. The tap down to Cochin, immediately tackled by Hanbury, but over the shoulder, just slipped up over Cochin's shoulder. The Tigers skipper wins the ball.
Got to get it in quick here, 15 seconds.
So he does. He kicks it long. Where's Jack? He's kicked it straight to a couple of Swans who'll raffle it. And rather than take the mark, Grundy went the double-fisted spoil. So the Tigers still a hope? No, they're not. The kick comes inside 50, but the quarter is over. And initially, at least, a very good one for Richmond. They burst out of the blocks and had 5-3 on the board before the Swans had scored. But then the Swans have come back in the last 5 or so minutes of the term. At quarter time at the Olympic Stadium, Richmond 5-3-33, the Swans 2-1-13. 3 to Revolt, 1 to Deledio, 1 to Miles, and for the Swans, McVeigh and Tippett are the goal scorers. You're on Grandstand AFL and ABC Local Radio, News Radio and Grandstand Digital.
The ABC is seeking 4 new members for the ABC Advisory Council. The council meets 3 times a year and contributes ideas and feedback to the ABC board and management about ABC television, radio and online. Members are chosen for their ability to represent a wide range of community attitudes and are appointed as individuals. You join the council in January 2015. If you're interested and able to devote the time necessary, then call 1800 628 250.
Saturday footy.
Grandstand AFL.
For the first for the Tigers, Jack Revolt splits the middle and he celebrates. He runs 10 metres, he high-fives the teammates. Revolt, he gets a topo kick to Deledio, who just barges his way through and then sends it for home and scores a goal. This is a slashing start for the Tigers.
Cochin, 70 out, drills a little short pass looking for Revolt. Over his head, little nudge came from Griffiths. Looks for the handball, gives it off. Another one to Richmond. Revolt's got 2. 13 and a half gone first quarter, 21 plays. Zip. Miles snap from 30. There's another one. Richmond rolling here. Cruising by Richards, ignores him, kicks a beautiful ball to Parker, sandwiched between 3 Tigers, and he'll win a free kick for being squashed into the turf, I think. Advantage paid. McVeigh runs onto it. And guess what, folks? The Swans have a score. Their first of the afternoon. It's a goal. They trail by 27 points.
Lloyd plays on quickly. Tippett on the lead. He honours the lead and Tippett marks on his chest about 40 metres out. He steps over the 50 and he likes it off the boot and he converts a much-needed goal for the Swans.
Grandstand AFL.
On ABC Local Radio, online and on ABC Grandstand Digital.
Quarter time at the Olympic Stadium. Things a little finer just for now. Showers scudding across the surface in the first quarter. At quarter time, Richmond 5-3-33. as they scored about the 22-minute mark, and the Swans had nothing. Well, the Swans kicked 2-1 in the latter stages of that first term and trailed by 20 at quarter time. And Kelly Underwood made the comment during the call that one team clearly had a lot to play for, i.e. Richmond wanting to play in finals, and the Sydney Swans, who've got top spot locked up unless they lose by about 150 points, which is unlikely to happen, folks. And so Richmond it was that set sail in that first quarter, David, and were magnificent.
Well, Rob, they were magnificent and even created more opportunities than the scoreboard showed. And I think you look back at a game often, and what you do in the first few minutes, they had 3 opportunities to score. 2 of them, one out of bounds, and 2 of them missed what I thought were clear and relatively easy ones. And they continued on it at a rate that I couldn't imagine when I first came here. But they take the deep breath, Sydney, and the dominance that was shown in every aspect of the game is gradually being cut back. I think there's a 44-34 contested possession that's turned around a bit. When you've got Cochin with 7, Foley with 4, Miles 5 and Deludio 4, their leaders are really showing the way. I think there is one, Parker is the only Sydney player, and he's got 7, so he stands out on his own above all of his teammates in terms of being able to win the ball, there was a slight turnaround. But they stabilised about 15 to 20 minute mark of the first quarter and played the kind of footy that you would expecting Sydney to play in the circumstance. But it isn't easy. The surface is relatively slippery. If you haven't got numbers there, the first one slows it down, the second one gets hold of it, and the third one's there to assist. So numbers are going to be very hard. This is ground, I would think, Stephen, is a hard-working ground. It's long, not as wide as some other league ground, but it is certainly a long ground, a bit like the Subiaco ground of play, and I would have thought. And so they're going to have to keep up that energy and enthusiasm that comes when you know that there's so much on the game, etc., can dissipate pretty early if you're not getting a result for it. So they can't bomb it in. Every time they've bombed it in, when they've gone quick and got 1 and 2 on 2, they've been pretty good in the contest. So I think Sydney are going to slow it down, but the initial difference on the scoreboard's going to take some while to get back, and Sydney are going to have to play quality football to match the enormous enthusiasm of this Richmond side.
And the Swans have made no secret of the fact they don't like playing here. The ground is hard. They say it always takes an extra couple of days to recover. And the fact, Stephen Gillam, it is a bigger ground, has played right into the Tigers' hands in these conditions as well. You look at the Swans have had 4 losses this year, and 2 of them, maybe even more, came in the wet. That loss to the Giants in round 1, lost to North Melbourne at the SCG was in the wet. So all the elements, everything is going in the Tigers' way so far.
Yeah, I think, look, they've got a tall forward line, Sydney, and I think that's why at times they might struggle in the wet, because those big boys can't mark it, and that's their strength. When it hits the deck, they're almost null and void, if you like, in terms of defensive pressure and pressuring that ball on the way out. But look, you mentioned in the call, Kelly, that Sydney have got nothing to play for. Yeah, they know what's going on next week, but there's a lot of boys, Mitchell, Cunningham, Towers, Naismith, I know it's his first game, Lloyd and Biggs are all playing to get a Guernsey next week. For 4 or 5 of those more senior quality players coming back in. So I think they've got heaps to play for, and they obviously want to go in playing good footy into next week.
That was Hawthorn's catalyst last night. Came off the back of the 6 or 7 blokes who knew they were playing for their life.
Dave, Mark, anything from quarter time?
John Longmire very animated when he was speaking to the Swans, Rob. Damien Hardwick seemed a lot more composed. I can report blue skies above.
Lovely. Here at the Olympic Stadium, the second quarter is underway. The Swans trail by 20.
So the Tigers have given them a start. Can they reel it in? A free kick out of the centre. It's Cochin in the fluorescent yellow boots. Lovely kick inside 50. It was a diving attempt by Revolt. The defensive spoil came from Rampy. And now one of those rolling mauls as Gordon tries to clear it. Going in hard was Miles, such a good user, and he does well on this occasion. Handball to Cochin. They're going backwards to Grimes and then Batchelor, and then on the left sends it into half forward. Might have been a push there. Martin into the back of Richards. Should have been. It wasn't spotted, Parko.
Oh, Martin had no chance to get this. Just get rid of him, and I can't believe that's not seen.
Well, they've made the change there. Rampy's gone back onto Rewalt and Richards onto Martin.
Interesting.
Left half forward for Richmond. Marich holds Naismith off the footy. He wins the tap. Naismith gobbles it up at ground level, however. Gives it to Parker. His handball only as far as Morris, who's won another free kick, taken high. And Morris at left half forward goes backwards by hand to Chaplin. He's 85 from goal. Kicks it inside, attacking 50. Revolt up in front. The spoil came from Rampy. Handball from Richards only as far as Marich. Hands and knees goes Revolt. Looking for a teammate. Miles couldn't gather. And it goes out of bounds.
What would have sparked that change, do you think? The fact Rampy has gone to Revolt.
Oh, look, Jack's kicked free. And I think he's getting it mostly on the deck. As well, so Rampy's probably the better matchup for him with speed and being able to compete on the ground.
And Marich wins the tap again. Another free kick as the Richmond player slides in on top of the football. And so the Tigers, through Pettit, have a chance 60 out from goal to score first in the second quarter. He kicks it towards the goal square. Griffiths will be sandwiched between a couple of Swans. The big spoil came from Grundy towards the boundary line. Richards happy to see it over. He was slung late in the tackle, and the umpire will have a look at this, and no, there'll still be a ball up. Left forward pocket for Richmond.
Tigers looking to score the first goal of this second quarter. Tangling Marich and Naismith. Once again, it's a hard ball to win. Cochin on all fours fires out a desperate handball, only as far as Parker, who, working in a confined space, just keeps it in, long up the line, looking for Tippett, who was in front. And it was out of bounds on the full. Not a great kick. Rance accepts the free kick. So another thrust forward here. Rance, a high up and under, allows Revolt to run late at the pack, but he didn't fly in the end. He misjudged it. Deledio on all fours, so too Cochin again, and this time it will be held in. We'll have a ball up directly in front of goals at the Parramatta Road end. That's where Richmond is kicking in this second quarter. The umpire doesn't waste any time, throws it up. Spinning in there was Hanbury, little 360, and breaking for him is McVeigh, and then he kicks it inside 50 and no one's there. So a foot race is on. Who will get there first? Rance, the big man, he bends down. A clean pick up in the wet, he does well, and then he kicks out wide to Ellis. That's great play by Rance. Ellis can't break free. He spun her in a 360 and a tackle by Reece Shaw. And it was pretty ferocious stuff. A big ball to be won there in the end. The boundary line wins out, and we'll have a throw in right on 50 for the Swans.
Tippett was pretty slow.
Yeah, I was looking at where Lewis Jetta was. I wanted him to run onto it.
Swans half a chance. They've got it at left half forward. McVeigh went without it. Socking off the ground there was Biggs. Falling over the top of a Richmond player in the Pettit, and the ball comes off shins. Newman's it was, and goes out of bounds.
I love the way the players have actually adjusted to the new rule, staying on their feet. I hope we make the decision this game to say you can't take possession of the ball unless you're on your feet. It'll be the best decision we've ever made in AFL.
So it'll be Griffiths up against Naismith. Griffiths has front position. Martin pushes off his man in Parker. Gives it off to Miles, the former Giant, kicks up to the wing. Marich opposed to Grundy. Two big balls, push and shove, and it goes out of bounds.
Impressive young kid. I keep looking at Miles. He's terrific in heavy traffic. He doesn't have the body you think to match with these guys, but he wins it, makes great decisions, and executes really well.
Tigers have worked it up to centre wing, western side of the Olympic Stadium. Naismith reaches over the top. Pettit comes up with a footy, immediately crunched and pushed in the back was the umpire, and lucky is Luke Parker. And the former Demon, Pettit, will come up with the ball for Richmond at right half back.
Tell you what, they're not getting the home crowd advantage in terms of free kicks. It's double the amount to Richmond at the moment.
So 20-point lead to the Tigers, 5 gone, second quarter.
And Sydney in possession. Gary Rowan at half-back, kicks to full-back. Richards marks in the defensive goal square. Last line.
Very helpful to Richmond, I would have thought.
Oh, it's not a great kick. Sort of flat helicopter kick, but it was lucky because it came off. Jack switches on, out looking for Goods, who's forced to stand and take a contested mark with two Tigers bearing down in Ellis and Grimes. Used all his experience then. Young number 348, the game's record holder for the Swans. Flicks it back to the centre corridor. Rowan, who then plays on quickly to Cunningham, who kicks around the corner. It was sloppy, and it allows the Tigers to win the contest and effect a turnover here. Grigg to Newman, and his kick isn't great either. It's cut off by Rampy, who flicks it over the boundary line.
So long as I sit there, he turned around to hand pass. He saw it was Jack Rewild. Said, who else is available? He totally pulled it back in to get away from the upper plate. That's not great faith in your mate, is it?
And if you're a Sydney sider who likes wearing purple, you're going to be happy because the Dockers are pulling away from Port, and it looks like they're headed to the Harbour City next weekend. 92 plays 64. Early stages last quarter, although Port, no, they're not going to get one back, as a Sydney here to try and take it through the centre of the Olympic Stadium. Batchelor's little handball over the top into the path of Grid, coming the other way. Rowan meets him, bumps him off the footy. Now he's charging it to Lidio. Got the handball laid beautifully to Martin. Martin's kick in towards full forward. Cochin front position. Gathered, held by Richards. Richards comes up with a slithering, sliding ball. Gordon came high, I thought. Free kick. No play on the call. There'll be a ball up. Finally it comes out. Strong tackling by Mitchell. Comes to Grundy, straight at the back of his teammate in Smith. So the Tigers still a chance through Marriage, although it dribbles off his bootlaces. Goes out of bounds in the right forward pocket.
Just need to make a better decision, Martin. Either go for goal or go to someone who was free inside 50. I think there was a target probably 30 metres out right in front. He usually makes the right decision and executes really well, but on that occasion just need to pull the trigger.
7 minutes gone, second quarter. No score to either side. It's 33-13. The quarter time score taken away by Hanbury. High kick towards the wing. Front position Jetta smashed away by Grimes. Will find the boundary line, or will it? Yes, Jetta eventually tracks it over.
Robbie, that went out just in front of me, and just to see the desire that Dylan Grimes had for the ball, it's very indicative of the way Richmond are playing. They really do want this contest very much.
It's pressure-packed footy, isn't it, David Mark? And the wet conditions, we are lurching from stoppage to stoppage. Marriage to Miles. Over the top down there was Edwards. But his kick isn't great, only as far as Vlosten, who then sends it inside 50, blazes away. Malcheski with the defensive mark. Now, what can they set up here, the Swans? This is where they're usually so good, driving it out of half-back. It was a kick wide and a nice mark by Lloyd. Marking in front of Morris.
Rampy might have hurt himself just behind play. He's battling with a lower leg injury.
Lloyd kicks it backwards to Grundy. Handballs to his partner in crime, Richards, who keeps the kick low. Mark's taken by Mitchell. He handballs backwards to Malcheski. So they're messing around with it here. He kicks to Jetta. Defensive spoil from the Tigers. Can they get a clean possession? Dispossessed is Griffiths. Ball hits the deck. Swans pile in. Goods is in net. So too is Jetta. And it is a really tough ball to be won. Oh, Jetta picks it up. Tucks it under the arm. Takes off. Handballs to Malcheski. In fact, it was McVeigh rather, and then to Shaw, who kicks out to space. Martin, can he keep it in? He does, just kicks backwards to Cochin, and now the Tigers can set something up. Short to Pettard, who will mark in the centre of the ground.
Quick handball to Ellis sliding by. Ellis just stopped momentarily, pokes a little kick up to Delidio, who marks in front of Rowan. Almost pointed the square at right half forward. 70 out from goal for the Tigers. 33 plays 13. Early stages second quarter. It's all Freo in the West. It's up to 98-64. As a long kick comes into the right forward pocket. High up there was Richards, spoiled away, coming through McVeigh. Just some desperation coming on that occasion from Ribot, I think it was. Diving over the top. Is it being held in? The umpire's going to play holding the footy. Free kick to the Tigers. The Swans forwards penalised. And which Tiger will come up with the ball? Lots of green boots there. Will it be Cochin? No, it's going to be Gordon, the former Swan. Played a couple of games with Sydney. Took an absolute screamer last week, and now is a chance to kick the Tigers' sixth goal.
Well, they're arguing very strongly about the validity of the free kick, but no doubt he dived on it from my point of view.
Dragged it in. And if you're going to do that, it doesn't matter if you make a legitimate attempt or not, you have to get rid of it.
It's got to get out. Is that right? I understand. The ball's got to come clear.
Yep. If you dive on it, drag it in, it's got to get out. Otherwise, you'll be pinged.
Almost 10 minutes gone second quarter. This for the first score of the term from either side. Gordon, the former Swan, drills it home to the southern end. Tigers lead by 26 points, 6-3-39. The Swannies 2-1-13.
Rob, without setting the world on fire, he has been just good in the pinch in the last 3 or 4 weeks. He hasn't done an enormous amount, but what he's done has been very timely and very skillful, taking some colossal, courageous mark, and he converts on most instances, so that's good.
Yeah, and he gives them something defensively down there. Probably 2 or 3 efforts with that ball then, and gets rewarded with holding the ball decision, and kicks truly down to that yellow and black army that love that one.
Yeah, 10 games and 8 goals, 6 at that stage. He's a fairly consistent scorer.
Towers again into the ruck for the Swans, who will go head-to-head against Marriage. And that free was given away a few moments ago. John Longmire out of his seat, walked to the back of the box. Frustration's really starting to boil over for the Swans coach. That's locked in on the edge of the bullseye.
So Towers does the centre bounce and then Tippett straight in off the line to
And
complete
here is
around the ground.
Tippett, who Josh Kennedy at the Swans rates as the best tap ruckman he has ever played with. Kurt Tippett hasn't been able to find full fitness and spend much time in the ruck at all. Malcheski out the back of the pack. Nice kick. Lands on the chest of Mitchell. Can the Swans build something here? From half forward. Puts it onto the left. Kicks to the goal square. One out there. Reid and Chaplin. Chaplin takes the mark. Read it best. And plays on to Cochin, who takes the mark and then is dealt with, brought down by Jeddah. Trent Cochin racking up the possessions, and Parko, in these slippery conditions, the class just rises, doesn't it? And the clean possessions that Trent Cochin's been able to amass so far, so impressive. Edwards flies a little leap up the back of Smith and plucks a nice mark in the wet conditions. Just wedges the kick over the top to Delidio, handballs to Vlosten and then kicks inside 50. Wasn't a great one. Revolt somehow comes out the back to Foley, who had a bit more time but blazed away, kept it low, rolled through for a behind.
Gordon was sitting out there all on his own about 15 metres from the goal, totally and utterly free of opposition.
Kick for the Swans finds Rowan out at right half back, still inside defensive 50. Good user of the footy, pokes a little 20-metre pass down the line to Tom Mitchell. And Mitchell just slows things down. He looks inboard towards centre half back. Sort of had Grundy, although he was eventually marked by Griffith. So he kicks up towards the wing. A huge leap by Martin. With his Swans free kick will go to Adam Goods. Martin up way too early. And Goods can send it into the middle. And finds Mitchell. Coming past is Grundy. Had Malcheski. He's forced onto his left is Grundy. Not a bad effort. Didn't quite carry to Jack. And so Ellis can take it off half back to Vlosten. And he finds the chest of Martin. Martin gallops through the middle of the Olympic Stadium and finds Revolt. Long way from goal. No one's still inside forward 50. Now they dribble back. Basher Hooley's got Goods to beat. Goods was clever. Tapped down to the path of Biggs. Biggs one way then the other. Ball slipped free from his grasp. The pressure was good from the Richmond player. Just caused the error there as McVeigh goes in hard and he's happy to see it out of bounds. Pettit was the player pouring the pressure on. Well,
despite Rob, the end product of that, that's a dumb kick from Rewald. Absolutely put it up 2-on-1 against his little mate, and they've actually got out of it better than they should have.
13-minute mark of the second term. It's the Tigers 40, the Swans 13. Richmond kicked the first 5 goals. Buddy Franklin, a late withdrawal. Rested. Miles does well out of the pack. Again kicks towards the boundary line and it goes over. So it's been a bit of lockdown footy, a real scrap.
Anthony Miles being paid the ultimate respect by Sydney, with the skipper Kieran Jack going with him everywhere.
So a throw in from exactly the same spot. This time Griffiths only as far as Mitchell, and then sidestepping league-like was Jack. Gets it off to the runner Jeddah, who slips over, regathers, goes again, kicks to half forward. Caught behind was Tippett, the defensive mark to Rance. Read the ball best. Handballs back to Chaplin and then to Batchelor, who's got time to pick up the footy, assess the options, left or right. He flings it wide out in front of Newman, who cannot control it, and it rolls over the boundary line. We'll have a throw in right in front of the Swans bench.
Cal, I keep thinking Sydney are getting more time and space, but it's actually both sides again. The tensions, dissipated quite a bit.
And that's Subiaco with about halfway through the last quarter. It's Fremantle leading Port by 38 points. So it looks like at the moment at least, if scores continue this way, it'll be a Richmond-Port final next week, 5th versus 8th, and a Swans-Freo final as Edwards takes the ball and kicks up towards half forward, soccering it. Cleverly was Revolt and goes again and keeps the ball inside forward 50, about 40 out, and might have been held perhaps as well, you think, Parko? Possibly there?
Definitely held, and far enough the jumper out for the umpire to actually see it.
It was a smart kick by Edwards. If he had put it in the air, Sydney had it covered. Being put on the deck, a lot less predictable, probably suits Richmond.
And it comes again to Naismith and Marich. Naismith's bigger body this time came up with the footy down to Grigg. Flying shot from Delidio on the boundary line is just across the face, and Richards alone in the right back pocket. Marks, a little kick over the top to Malcheski. Dangerous though, a chance for Richmond here. They're 40 out of that, stripped away, and the Swans can clear through Biggs only as far as Hooley. Back to Morris. Comes up to Chaplin. Neat little kick into the pocket on the lead. Knocked away from Revolt. Chance again, though. Quick snap from Foley. And it goes out of bounds in the left forward pocket.
That's a great kick. I mean, I think he actually meant that 3-0 defensive sitting there waiting for this kick. He just curled it off the boot inside, curled it round over the bounce. Fantastic effort.
Tigers by 27 points. And they're threatening again. In front, Naismith. Reading it best was Parker. Handballs out near the boundary line, Shaw. He handballs to Mitchell, who's dealt with pretty harshly by Morris. Brought down in a tackle, and once again the ball spills over the boundary line. So another throw in. The yellow and black cheer squad clapping their hands. They're in full voice at the Parramatta Road end. Probably around 5,000 of them up the southern end of the stadium. Now, in there and winning the footy was Shaw. He hacks it to the city wing.
Yep.
Chaplin falls over, allows Rowan to come in, goes the toe poke off the ground. Newman will get there first. Newman overruns it. It's a 2-on-2. Rowan picks it up the deck. Rowan handballs over the top, and the Swans should run in. Towers into an open goal, and finally, the Swans have got something to cheer about. The Swans with their third for the afternoon. The Tigers still lead 6-4-40 to Sydney 2-1-19. 3-1-19 rather.
David, you usually get about 3 opportunities from when the ball's transitioned defensively into your attack to stop the opposition from scoring. That time, Chaplin, he wanted to dig a hole. He fell over.
He fell over 3 times. Yeah.
Rance fell over. Newman fell over. Goal to the opposition. Usually, we talk about in reviews, you get 3 critical failures of your defensive action, if you like. Otherwise, it's a definite goal. And that's what happened there.
And Steve, I was just about to comment on the fact that Troy Chaplin's playing loose, and you couldn't really see how the Swans were going to make any progress forward, unless, of course, he slips over.
Naismith leaps very high. Parker got hand to it, but it comes to Martin, who carves his way through a couple of Swans. Now Miles sends it out towards the wing where the numbers favour Richmond, but they've got to get away from some pretty tough tackling. Somehow Martin's found his way out there. Well done by Jetta. And that ball thrown away. The umpire says no, I'll ball it in. Great tackling by Sydney.
It was, because Martin was actually away, wasn't he? I think he could have done better with his... he put that hand pass under terrible pressure to his teammate.
Boundary throw in, eastern wing. Goal apiece to these sides in the second quarter. Richmond come away from the contest. Handball over the top, though. Smith holds front position for the Swans. He's in front of Gordon, his former Swans teammate. Gordon does well to fight on, though. Come up with the footy. He's stripped of it. Mitchell loses the handle. Miles receives from Grigg. Away goes Richmond through Morris. Handball to Batchelor. Kicks the ball very long to the square. Griffiths has got 2 to beat. They sandwich him. The spoil came from Reid from the side to Malcheski. Met late. Fair play. Kicks back into the centre. 1 grab, 2 to Cunningham was excellent. To Jetta. He could be away here. Spiral punt to Goods. He's got Grimes to beat. The experience of Goods. Grimes gets some support, and Rance runs onto the footy. The bounce favoured him, and Goods couldn't beat 2, but he tried everything. And maybe that little pressure or implied pressure has turned it over. Lloyd Marks on the wing.
And Lloyd looks at Goods as an option, but he's sucking in the oxygen, is Adam Goods, and now offers a lead, and now Lloyd goes in that direction. He slips over, and listen to the Swans fans, the favourite son, they want a free, and they've got one. They might have just talked the umpire into that one. So Goods with a free. He looks to give it off, and he does, looking to with the kick to give it off to Parker, who was caught high, but Richmond can clear through Rance. A high ball. Griffiths looks to fist it over the boundary line, but it was out of bounds on the full, so the Swans can go. McVeigh. Now, can he hit up a target inside 50? Pack forms. Tippett was sandwiched in the middle, and it was Chaplin from flying at the back of that pack with a defensive spoil, a la Josh Gibson over the boundary line.
These days it's all about forward-line stoppages and getting stoppages in your forward half. That's why players these days are reluctant to kick it into the middle of the ground, more attacking and more chance to goal, but this is what they want, repeat stoppages.
Richmond 40, the Swans 19. Jack tries to barge his way through. Petard's in there. And then Shaw with a little handball to Hanbury. Played for the free. Was he held? He was. He's going to win it. It's coming back to Hanbury, who played that beautifully. A little tug of the jumper. And Dan Hanbury from only 15 metres out on a pretty tough angle, but should be fine. Dan Hanbury to the northern end. to make it back-to-back goals for the Swans and drag them back in the contest, but the left footer hits the post. So that angle made a little tougher given that he was the left footer in that forward pocket. An opportunity goes begging. It's Richmond 40, the Swans 20.
Sydney pressing. Kick from fullback from Newman finds Ellis, who marks in the right back pocket. About 40 metres from the goal he's defending at the northern end. Just the required 15 over the top to Cochin. Lime green boots glowing. Lights full effect here now at the Olympic Stadium. Marich in from the side was Malcheski to lend assistance to Naismith, the first gamer, the former North Shore player, the Swan, local product, 205 centimetres tall.
It's from Gunnedah.
He'll be okay, I reckon, in time. It's athletic, really working hard.
He's worked his way into the contest, winning a few taps. He won that one as well. Coming through the pack there is Cochin, desperate as ever. Back to Naismith, taken down under tackle from Marich. Comes to Ellis, close to the boundary line. Hanbury keeps it in. Underground handball's very clever to Jack to McVeigh, who tried to keep it in. The umpire was onto it as he dished off to Cunningham, who was met strongly.
It's incredibly, Stephen, as a player, I mean, it's incredibly different, the hand that they're doing in traffic. Quick decisions. I just admire enormously the current modern day player.
22 minutes gone into the second quarter. It's on the left half forward flank for the Swans, kicking to the northern end. Tap one by Marich, only as far as Mitchell. Cleverly done by Parker to Hanbury to Cunningham. Pokes the kick up to the top of the square. Big leap from Rowan to the back of the pack. Can he get there first? Good defence, Tigers. And slapped through by Rant through a rush behind. 3-3-21, play 6-4, 40, 22 and a half gone second quarter.
Rowan's acceleration, Stephen. Goodness
explosive,
me.
isn't it?
Oh, explosive. Yeah.
So the Tigers through Newman, bringing it round the outer side. Martin. Another free, Dustin Martin. It was a push in the back. So this time, Biggs. Biggs, a high up and under. Oh, and a fly there in the middle of the pack from the Swans player in Parker, the smallest man in that pack. Outstretched arms, and he emerges with a ripped jumper and the ball in his hands. So he'll go back and have a set shot. That was a super impressive pack mark from a player that would be tracking all Australian, you'd have to say.
You've said it, Kel. I mean, he was the last bloke who should have marked it.
25 metres out. Just a couple of metres in from the boundary line. A tough angle for Parker, but he is all class. Parker converts. It's back-to-back goals for the Swans, and they're dragging themselves back into this contest. Richmond 6-4-40 at the 24-minute mark of the second term. The Swans 4-3-27.
Yeah, Kelly, he's a very impressive young player for the Swans. He regularly kicks goals. He's very good above his head. He's one of those players, I reckon, that is really good because he can play a lot of time on ball but also go forward, so that's where he gets his rest, and he doesn't need to come off all the time. He's off at the moment. He's got half his jumper missing, but he's been really impressive this year, and he's kicked multiple goals, and that's what they're going to need going into finals. I think if their big two don't fire and they're well held, it's guys like Parker and Reid who are going to have to fill in the void and bob up and kick those important goals.
Well, don't give up on Port, maybe. They're back within 14 points with quite a bit of time to go at Subiaco. They're known to run out games pretty well here at the Olympic Stadium. Sydney are coming at Richmond after the Tigers led by 27 points at one stage in this second quarter. Long to right half forward. Shaw tracks it to the boundary line, out of bounds.
You already called a Port Richmond for next week only a few minutes ago,
Suggested it strongly. Boundary throw in. Richmond 70 out from goal, kicking to the southern end to their Tigers faithful, who are a little quieter at the moment. They have to win to play finals. The tap from Naismith down to Mitchell. He's pushed in the back, surely. Thrown into the turf. No free kick. Play on the call. Little inconsistent, but the umpire might have been shielded by a couple of big bodies there. And there'll be a ball up right on the 50. Still at right half forward for the Tigers. 6-4 to 4-3. Good last few minutes by Sydney. Good strong tackling there on Reece Shaw. He's not going to get rid of the footy. He'll have another ball up. There's about 5 minutes to go on the clock over at Subiaco. Freo lead 104 to 90.
So we're a metre inside 50 here for the Tigers. Cunningham does well. Clean possession. Handball to Hanbury, who puts it on the left. He kicks in the goods Rance direction. A bouncing ball. Chaplin does well. Gathers, handball to Rance, fumbled, and then coming through and offering a little bit of assistance was Grimes. And is he done for deliberate? He has.
That was very unlucky. He was just fumbling.
And he looks at the umpire, rolls his eyes, drops the shoulders, and then just trudges back to the defensive 50. Meanwhile, Biggs kicks it inside 50. Again, sandwiched in the middle of that pack was the smallest man there in Cunningham. And Rance emerges with the footy. 3 minutes left before half-time. Rance. The Tigers are dearly love another goal. Now Chesky thumps it over the boundary line. Another throw-in. Broadcast wing. Buddy Franklin not out there tonight. A late withdrawal. He's been rested. Along with McGlynn and Kennedy and Bird and Pike not out there for the Swans. Big opportunity here for the Tigers. McVeigh out of the pack. High up and under. Batchelor flies. Couldn't take it. Then regathers. Brought down in a tackle. Ellis to Vloston and now to Deledio. They do that really well, the Tigers. Get themselves out of a little bit of a tricky spot. But now the Swans through McVeigh to Towers, to Mitchell, to Jack. How will this sit for Parker? They're edging closer to goal. And Chaplin does well for Richmond. Now through the centre of the ground. A couple of quick turnovers. It's Foley who puts it on the right out in front of Revolt, almost sliding in, stretching the hamstrings on that at half forward, takes the mark and then pokes it to Martin, who marks inside 50 out in front of Reece Shaw. And Reece Shaw, the man on the mark, is livid with a teammate. He is absolutely disgusted with a teammate out there.
Well, that was contrast to Jack's original kick in, the one that we didn't like. He just put the ball where the bloke had the run. I reckon that was really smart usage.
So Dustin Martin, 50 metres out, 45-degree angle to the Parramatta Road end. Oh, he slews off the side of the boot. He might have missed everything he has. It's out of bounds on the full. And you might want to remember that kick. Richmond 40, the Swans 27.
The hands of Malcheski in the left back pocket for the Swans. A short lead came from Kieran Jack. He goes long, very long, wanting Naismith. Grimes there with him, almost a grab to Naismith. Oh, just slipping down. Umpire call play on. Not a bad decision. He was slipping down as he was taken high. Play on the call to Goods and Rance. Well played by Alex Rance. It's knocked out of bounds on the wing.
It was an interesting call, Rob, because Tom Mitchell basically took off his head then, practically, but umpire said play on.
4-3-27 Sydney, 6-4-40 Tigers, 28.5 gone, won't be a long quarter. Many goals scored in this term. Reaching over the top there was Griffiths down to Cochin. His kick gains about 30 metres up towards half forward. Ever courageous and tough was Smith. Got the mark on the second attempt. Comes to Grundy. Kicks long up towards right half forward. On the bounce to Cunningham. Bounces back off his knees into the path of Basher Hooley. Goes to Morris. He barges his way through the pack and gives to Ellis. It opens up. Headed marks on his chest and can play on to Hooley. 70 out from goal, left half forward. Clever neat kick back in the Marriage direction. But the cool calculating Grundy just waited for Big Ivan to run under the footy and took a strong mark at centre half back and flares it to the left back pocket to Shaw.
So in the shadows of half time, the Swans happy just to share it around. There's no sense of urgency out there at all. Reece Shaw kicks to Reid, who's in the defensive goal square, the very last line of defence. Kicks long and strong to the outer side, and Richards almost takes a one-hander. He gets the free anyway because Hooley was holding. Richards short, back inboard to Lloyd. And he can hit up Goods on a long lead in the centre of the ground, but Rance does really well. The ball spills clear, comes back as far as Lloyd. Handballs through the centre of the ground to Mitchell. Quick reflexes to Naismith, puts him under the pump. Smith's there, handballs to Jetta, and then Jetta boots it long, looking for Tippett. It's Tippett and Chaplin, Tippett and Chaplin. Tippett taps it down. Tippett, and then might have been pushed in the back. Umpire says no. Sliding in was Jack. Siren sounds. And it is half-time at the Olympic Stadium. The Tigers fighting for survival, win and they're in the finals, lose and they're dusted for 2014. The Tigers off to a quick start. They kicked the first 5 of the game and they lead it by 13 points at half-time. 6-4-40 to the Swans, 4-3-27. The goal kickers, Revolt has 3. He kicked 3 of the first 5 for the Tigers. Singles to Deledio, Miles and Gordon. While for the Swans, all singles to McVeigh, Tippett, Towers and Parker. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, Buddy Franklin, a late withdrawal, rested ahead of the final series. Half-time here at Olympic Stadium in Homebush, and it is the Tigers leading by 13 points.
We came to Olympic Stadium today hoping for an exciting game, David Parker, and I don't think it's disappointed. It's been a bit drizzly, so some of the skills are down, but you can't fault the endeavour, certainly the Tigers, and the Swans are just starting to turn it around and match them. Yeah, I think you've called it perfectly. The energy of Richmond was, in contested possession, or still there, 84-65, so still a long way ahead in that department. But I was very impressed, as if you're playing for your life, they have an opportunity to clinch the place in the finals today. You would be, but Sydney, despite having so many good players out, have just kept to their task. And I think Rob, I don't know, it's been the last 15 minutes, what you call it. If you didn't know the scoreboard, you say that these teams are evenly matched, playing about as well as each other. No dominance, but certainly Sydney has made up a fair bit of ground in the second quarter after what was a bit of a lacklustre start, I think.
Yeah, it became a bit of a stalemate. I think Sydney were worried about their back end, so they've shored that up with Sam Reid spending significant part of that quarter behind the footy. And it's basically a game between the two 50-metre arcs. So it's whoever uses the ball going better inside 50 is going to get better opportunities for shots on goal. Richmond missed a couple that quarter, and Sydney were able to convert through probably that spare for Richmond, making a few mistakes and giving them opportunities which they made the most of.
And the three forwards, you talked about it earlier, Reid, Tippett and Goods, very dangerous on the way in, not nearly as effective when the ball turns over and they're going out. There's no pressure coming out, so that makes it a little easier for Richmond. And going the other way, Richmond have got two. I suppose Jack Rewell's not a very good defensive player. He doesn't have a great energy for the work without the ball. And the other tall forward, who is Griffiths, I think Griffiths is a reasonable athlete, but doesn't automatically go into defensive transition. So with a smaller front half, Richmond continually look like they're dangerous. But just in that last 10 minutes, I thought that Sydney were finding a bit of time and space to do what we know they can do, probably better than Richmond. And if they're not able to re-energise their approach to the game, this game might just slowly, bit by bit, slip away from Richmond.
Yeah, I think they flipped into a little bit of their old game plan where they play that three-quarter game, if you like, and open up the paddock behind. So that forces them to kick it in long, and then you got Goods and Jeddah and the small forwards running onto it, Cunningham and those sort of guys. I think in these conditions is probably going to suit them better than what they've probably been used to this year, is lead mark type players through Franklin, Tippett, Reid and Goods.
And it's Subiaco, it's all over there. Port came late but fell 8 points short. Ballantyne kicked 4 for Freo, 105-97. So it'll be Swans, Fremantle next week. Port and Richmond, if Richmond can win this game here at the Olympic Stadium. And don't forget, a big if, and don't forget for Freo, they're pretty well placed. Got a bloke called Fife to come back. He's showing some signs of shoulders in the last few rounds. They'd had a couple of weeks off. It's probably pretty well timed for them.
Yeah, I think so. And their beautiful centre-half back, who's been struggling with a calf injury for some time. I'm thinking he's an absolute key in their capacity to get over at the finish, and I think he's got the old man's disease, recurring calf, so they would be much stronger if they got that. That's a terrific effort though by Port Adelaide over there, because they were done and gone. And we know about their capacities team, and I think it's recognised across the competition. They're probably the best endurance-based speed, but they've got the endurance that goes with it. So they'll worry anybody. Doesn't matter where it'll be, including the West, if they have to play there.
And so Fremantle and the Swans back here at the Olympic Stadium. All the Swans finals to be played in Homebush. Played once this year. It was back in round 5, and the Swans beat them by 17 points at the SCG. But Parko, it's a whole different ball game here, and you just have to rewind 12 months ago and see what the Dockers did down in Geelong in that very first qualifying final. It was
long ground again, and their capacity to do that. I went and saw that game just a few weeks ago. They were never going to beat Geelong, but gone another 3 minutes, they would have cleaned them up conclusively. So they're exciting mob to watch. You know, we talk about, I heard the Waratahs coach saying, I wanted to design a game plan that would be attractive to watch but could still win. He said, that's almost a contradiction. You can't be attractive and still win because of the defensive nature of finals footy. We want Port Adelaide and teams like that, in my humble opinion, to be there and around, because I would go to watch it. I choose to see, take them on, run and gun, never stop, hardly any lateral play, into the corridor and down and go for your life. And they do it in reverse. They run them down from behind. So let's hope that Port Adelaide get there and actually make a game of it, because they're exciting to watch. They play attractive football, which you hope can win too.
Tigers are hoping to be part of the finals. They lead by 13 points, but eerily it sounds a lot like the last time these two sides met before the Tigers went on their 8-game winning streak. That was back in round 14 when they led by 26 points during the second quarter and lost by 11. They led by 27 during that second quarter. They lead by just 13 at half-time. Can the Tigers do it? We'll be back shortly to tell you all about the second half from the Olympic Stadium. Time for news.
Good afternoon, Paul McCarthy with ABC News. European Union foreign ministers are due to hold a second day of discussions in the Italian city of Milan about the crisis in Ukraine. The BBC's David Stern says the EU has said it will consider fresh sanctions against Russia following accusations that its troops are fighting inside Ukraine.
The question is this going to make any difference? There's a growing sense, a growing anxiety here in Kiev about what they say is a Russian incursion, or some officials call it an invasion, into Ukraine, amidst, it should be said, also growing evidence which seems to point in this direction. The rebels admitting that there are soldiers among them, although they are off duty, the presence of equipment of tanks that are only available to the Russian army. So the Ukrainians are very, I think, concerned is an understatement right now, and they're looking for something to counter this.
Officials in Afghanistan say at least 6 people have been killed and dozens more wounded in an attack by a suicide car bomber and Taliban gunmen on a government office in Nangarhar province in the east of the country. Local health officials say most of the victims are civilians. Heavy fighting is reported to be continuing between the Taliban and Afghan security forces after the attack on the National Security Agency in Jalalabad. The Australian government is demanding the unconditional and immediate release of United Nations peacekeepers being detained in the Golan Heights by Syrian rebels. Dozens of Filipino peacekeepers and 44 Fijian personnel have been detained in the area by armed groups. The Foreign Affairs Minister Julie Bishop says she's spoken with Fiji's leadership to pledge Australia's support, including intelligence resources. Ms Bishop says Australia will use its position on the UN Security Council to maintain focus on the issue. The Bourke Street Mall in the heart of Melbourne's CBD has been reopened after it was evacuated just before 1:30 this afternoon. Police will not say why the busy shopping strip had to be evacuated, but workers in stores were told to stay inside and not go near the entrance of their shops. A man's been taken to hospital with burns after an explosion at a building in inner Sydney. Emergency services were called to DeFries Avenue in Zetland shortly after 1 this afternoon, following reports of an explosion. A man believed to be in his 20s was treated by paramedics for burns. Universities say there's a huge amount of uncertainty around what to tell prospective students who face potential changes to course fees partway through their degrees. Universities are in the middle of open day season for students planning further study next year. The government has introduced legislation to deregulate fees from the start of 2016, but is facing an uphill battle to get it through the Senate. University of Sydney Vice-Chancellor Michael Spence has assured students there'll be no price gouging, but he can't say how much universities will charge until the reforms are finalised.
There is a huge amount of uncertainty, and that's for me why the timing is quite important. If this is going to happen, we have to get it to happen as quickly as possible so that we give certainty to parents and students and universities for that matter.
Rescue teams in Nicaragua have freed most of the 24 miners who've been trapped by a cave-in at a gold mine in the country's north. At least one miner is reported to have been killed in the collapse at the Bonanza mining project yesterday. The American actor Jerry Lewis has become an honorary member of the Order of Australia for his services to charity. Denica Geraghty has more.
Australia's ambassador to the US, Kim Beazley, made the presentation at a ceremony in Las Vegas, saying most Australians would know the 88-year-old for his contribution to the arts.
A man who has made life joyful on a global basis, including, therefore, in Australia.
But it's his work with the Muscular Dystrophy Foundation of Australia that has earned Jerry Lewis the recognition. The comedian has supported fundraising for research into the condition since the 1950s, raising about $2.6 billion through charitable programs, including telethons.
Now, tomorrow's capital city weather. Sydney, possible morning showers, 20. Melbourne, becoming windy, but mostly sunny, 22. Brisbane, partly cloudy, 25. Perth, a shower or two clearing at 18. Adelaide, a late shower or two, 24. Hobart, cloud increasing, 20. Canberra, morning fog and frost, then fine, 18. And Darwin, sunny tomorrow and 33 degrees. ABC News.
Free the people hand in hand.
Following the huge success of Macca's Top 100 comes Well I Love It.
And the man with the big hat is buying.
A hand-picked collection. Some of Macca's favourites, your favourites, a celebration of singers and songwriters. Well I Love It. 2 CD set. Available now from ABC shops, centres, shop online and good music retailers.
Saturday footy.
Grandstand AFL.
Coming through McVeigh, just some desperation coming on that occasion from Ribot, I think it was. Diving over the top. It's been held in. The umpire's going to play holding the footy. Free kick to the Tigers. Almost 10 minutes gone second quarter. This for the first score of the term from either side. Gordon, the former Swan, drills it home to the southern end.
Newman overruns it. It's a 2-on-2. Rowan picks it up the deck. Rowan handballs over the top and the Swans should run in. Towers into an open goal and finally, the Swans have got something to cheer about. Biggs, a high up and under. Oh, and a fly there in the middle of the pack from the Swans player in Parker, the smallest man in that pack. 25 metres out, just a couple of metres in from the boundary line. A tough angle for Parker, but he is all class. Parker converts. It's back-to-back goals for the Swans, and they're dragging themselves back into this contest.
Grandstand AFL.
On ABC Local Radio, online and on ABC Grandstand Digital.
The Olympic Stadium, the Tigers are where their fans want them to be. They lead the Swans 6-4-40 to 4-3-27, a 13-point lead. It was 20 points at quarter time, and during that second quarter they pushed it out to 27 before the Swans came hard in the latter stages of the second term. Other games today, Freo has just accounted for Port to lock up fourth position, barring some miracle this evening, which you'd imagine Geelong will beat Brisbane fairly comfortably. So Freo 16-9-105 to Port 14-13-97. And in a game this afternoon at the MCG, two great rivals in front of just under 60,000 people. Didn't mean much for the Blues. A bit of a tune-up for the Bombers. It was a draw. Essendon 13-12-90 to the Blues 14-6-90. And after the game, we caught up with Chris Judd.
Well, Chris, a strange finish to the season, but gee, you must be proud of this group of boys.
Yeah, look, mixed emotions. We've got to improve and work really hard so that we can win those sort of games. But by the same token, it's important to recognise where growth occurred, and we think that's happened in this second half of the season.
You're up by 30 points at quarter time. The Bombers came and it looked like for all money you were out of the game, but you came again.
Yeah, we did. And so there's two things there. It's pleasing that we didn't turn our toes up, because being 13th on the ladder, that would have been easy to do. But by the same token, we've got to work out a way to stop sides getting a run on like they did in the second quarter.
You look like you've found one in Watson.
Yeah, he was good today. He was really good. So I think he kicked 3 or 4 and provided a strong contest. So I was really, really pleased for him.
And personally, you were going to give it all up a couple of months ago, but a game like today, that must solidify your decision and make you feel like you're in the right place?
Yeah, I feel really happy with the decision and really excited about next year. So, we need all the Carlton fans to get behind us and rally round, and we'll be back bigger and better next year.
Boys, over to you.
Johnny, how do you rate the year?
As a group?
Yeah, as a group, yeah, not you, just a group.
Yeah, look, as I sort of said, it's a disappointing year. We finished 13th on the ladder, and we in no way celebrate that. But Mick's tinkered with the game plan and really solidified a style that suits our group, which is a plus. We've had some growth from a lot of players who've had career best seasons, and that's a plus. And I think our second half of the year, bar last week, we played some really competitive footy against some good sides.
Who do you think have had career best seasons?
Well, I think Sam Rose improved. I think Simon White. I think Bryce Gibbs. I think Chrissy Yarran before he got sore. Tom Bell. To name a few. So I think those guys have really improved, and we need more blokes to jump on the train next year with them.
Now, Chris, I saw you play in Adelaide last week. You played an average game for your standards, and before the game I said you will play a great game today, and it was a terrific game. How did you go into the game? Were you fired up? Did you want to bounce back? What was the motivation for you today?
Oh, look, the motivation's pretty much the same every week. Just obviously some weeks that it doesn't happen for you. It was good to get a few touches today, but as I said, still disappointing not to come away with the 4 points.
Juddy, all year it's taken you can't win a close one.
Well, we've won a couple, Sellers. We beat the Eagles in the close one. We beat Adelaide in the close one. So, we've won 7 games. So 30% of our wins have been in close ones, Sellers, and probably 30% of our losses have been in close ones. So you keep drumming on about that. You're driving us yarrow with it.
Am I?
Yeah. Get over it.
Well, the year's over, so you get over it too.
Now, Chris, I gave you the 3 votes today, and you were going to retire during the year. Now, come on. I thought that was the stupidest thing I'd heard anyone say all year in AFL football, that you were considering retiring. Now, mate, you've got to play another 2 or 3 years.
I don't know about that. Look, I'd like to go with something in the tank, but not too much. And I think I've still got something to offer. And as I said, really excited about next year.
Good on you, Chris. We look forward to seeing you then.
Good on you, guys.
The team catching up with Chris Judd after the draw between the Bombers and the Blues at the MCG today, 90 points apiece, and he sounded like a young man, Chris Judd, as though he might want to play on for 3 or 4 more years. He sounded energised and excited about the future of the Blues, but it remains to be seen next year. They might need to recruit a few players to lift them up to the level of teams like the Swans, who, despite missing 5 players tonight, including the late withdrawal of Lance Franklin, the Coleman medalist this year, unless Jack Riewoldt does something extraordinary in the last quarter. He's got 3 but needs another 10 in the second half. I can't see that happening.
Tommy Hawkins needs to boot 12 tonight.
12? Well, against the Brisbane Lions, yeah, I'm not sure. It's fine conditions down in Victoria at the moment, isn't it? So you never know. But the Sydney Swans are back in this match. They trail by 27 points partway through that second quarter. They're back within 13 at half-time. It's 4-3 to 6-4. As I mentioned, Jack Riewoldt has 3 goals. David Parkin, what do you think the coaches would have said at half-time? I imagine that Damon Hardwick would be pretty happy with his charges so far, but they did allow the Swannies to come back at them in that latter part of that second term.
Yeah, there were sufficient signs, I think, Rob, for the confidence of John Longmire to say, look, they've probably given it their best shot. I think we now, by half-time, Stephen, have got them under control. I think if we can play somewhere near our best with what we've got, there's a huge argument going out the back then amongst all the media buffs who were supposed to know. It was evenly divided as to whether Sydney could get back to them or Richmond would hang on. The significance for Richmond, don't ever forget that. The significance for Richmond still is the same as it was when they bounced the ball an hour or so ago. And I think Richmond will be re-energised if they can actually make, some conversions they didn't make early in the first quarter. They'll create the opportunities again. They must get a result for their work early in this quarter. If they leave the door open, no doubt in my mind the competency of the Sydney group will allow them to get back to them. But so you'd want to be in front, I would have thought, 3 or 4 goals, Kel, by 3/4 time, because I reckon this mob could get you in the finish.
Gee, your heart goes out to Tigers fans right now. If you're a Tigers fan, what do? Because this is sport's ultimate tease team, David Parkin and Stephen Gillum. It's like watching a car accident in slow motion, and you know what's going to happen, and you're not going to like what you see, but do you sit down and watch it? I remember David Hook saying, Parko, that when he was coaching the Bushrangers, the Victorian Bushrangers, when he got close at the MCG, he would go out and walk laps of the tan because he just couldn't watch. Will Tigers fans be able to watch this final 60 minutes?
Well, Tigers fans, the Tigers are out there reeling and ready to go for the last 5 or 6 minutes, so they've been wheeled up, got out there, probably on time. Sydney have let us say that. I would have been done exactly the same. Hang on, boys, just sit back here for a while, let them stew it over, play the first 5 minutes in the head before we get there. And I know it's it's a bending of the rules, but I reckon they've just done that now. I think Sydney know the significance of this next 8 or 10 minutes, and this will be the telling of the game. I can tell you, within quarter of an hour we'll know, I think, who's going to win.
Disposals to half-time. It's 198 to 179, Richmond's favour. Some of the leading individuals. Cochin has 20, Miles and Ellis 14, Chaplin 12, the defender for the Swans. Hanbury leads the way with 15. Malcheski has 14, including 10 kicks, 13 each to Parker and Shaw's 13 are made up of 11 kicks. Contested possessions, it's 88-70 Richmond's favour. Inside 50, 30-24 Richmond's favour. Tackles 47-28 in favour of the Sydney Swans. Almost underway, all on the line for Richmond. A chance to play finals footy in 2014. They lead the Swans by 13 points. Here's Kelly Underwood.
Settle in, Tigers fans, and just try and enjoy this. Marich has been pacing up and down in that centre circle, and now he charges in, and it's Richmond out of the centre through Miles. It'll land at centre half forward. Going back was Malcheski. Quick hurried kick, and now it's going to run to near the top of the goal square in the forward pocket. Overrunning it was Smith, so too Edwards. Martin tackles. Little hacked kick. Cochin gets there first. He's brought down heavily in a tackle, and the umpire says that's holding the ball. Cochin took on his man and tried to do too much. It'll be a Swans ball. It'll go to Hanbury. Hanbury in the back pocket. Puts it onto the trusty left out in front of Tippett. Juggles the mark, and it was a free for holding. Chopping of the arms. So Tippett takes it, gives it off to Jetta, playing his 100th. Kicks to the wing. Slap down there. Edwards gets there, off to Marich. A kick and up and under. Griffiths flew, went without it. Reece Shaw mops up at the back of the pack and kicks to Malcheski, who marks. And then Shaw sprints past, accepts the handball, gives the kick off to Hanbury. It's perfect. He can close to 50. He can go for home. He can pop it over the top to Rowan. Top of the goal square. Ball on the deck. Rowan gets around one, gets around two, and he goals. And that will bring the Swans to life. End-to-end footy from the Sydney Swans. That's the team that we've seen so much this year, and they close to within 7. 5-3-33 the Tigers, 6-4-40.
Kelly, Dylan Grimes is just coming off. He's done something to his right arm or shoulder. He's holding it very gingerly. We'll see what that is all about soon.
Stephen, can you explain to me? It was interesting because whether there is an advantage going left of out where we're sitting here, they've started with 6 forwards, or Sydney was 7 defenders, and they were manned up with one-on-one. The other end was 5 at the other end, so I'm not sure why the setup was the way it was.
Last 3 goals of the game to the Swans. Leaping high was Naismith up against Marich. The ruckman nullified each other, so the smaller men go hard at it at the base of the centre bounce. Going through is Edwards. The umpire will come in and ball it up again.
Yeah, just quickly, David, I think Sydney really like playing with an extra behind the ball, and in the first quarter they weren't doing that, and they got scored heavily against. I think in the second quarter that Richmond weren't able to get the same attack going, so I think they're going to man that Sydney player up going forward if they continue to do that now.
Martin's kick is beautiful to Gordon, who had a bit of attention and so did well to stretch in front and take the mark, and then kicks up inside attacking 50. Big leap from behind from Richards. Oh, Ted, normally the big spoil, but saw his chance to take the flyover petted. Gave the ball off to Malcheski. He drilled Jetta with a beautiful pass, and the 1-2's on. The silky left foot of Nick Malcheski on the bounce into the centre, finds Jack. Had to wait for it and got away from Morris. Kicks into a vacant forward 50 except for Tippett, who's pushed off the ball. Well done by Rance. Rance handball to Chaplin. Richmond turn it around and bring it down the western side with the ball to Ellis. Had to stop momentarily. Now kicks up to Delidio. Stretches marks. Defensive side of the western wing. Waves his teammates on, and coming up to meet the footy is Newman. And Chris Newman marks right on the western side of the Olympic Stadium.
Critical time, like they need to score now, Richmond.
Kicks in a Rewalt direction, 2 to beat. Nudged under the footy by Rampy. Coming at it is Edwards. Grundy from the other side. Edwards does well to tow it along in front. Sidesteps, little handball in there, or hand reached in to tap it free. Rewalt, was he pushed in the back? He wanted one.
Was he ever?
Rampy, not the infringer, says the umpire. Boundary throw in left forward pocket. Tigers lead by 7.
And Rob, it hasn't rained for a while, so the ball's quite dry, and you can see that the skills are a lot better than they were in the first half.
Chance here for the Tigers to score. Naismith to Jack. His handball didn't go to anyone, so he went back in and grabbed hold of the footies on the bottom of this pack. They pile in, and another ball up 20 metres out from the Tigers' goal. Tigers kicked the first 5 in this match. They led by 33, but the Swans have kept coming and coming, and the margin is 7. So Sydney out of the pack. Martin will run onto it first. A bouncing ball. It sits beautifully for him. He keeps it low, but can't hit up the target in Pettard. It goes over his head and out of bounds on the full. So just some errors starting to creep into the Tigers game. This is Rampy, who was switched on to Revolt after he booted 3 goals in the first term. Rampy looking for Goods. Goods and Batchelor tangle, and then Batchelor gives away the free kick. So it'll come all the way back to Goods, defensive side of the City wing. Adam Goods kicks from the defensive side to the attacking side, looking for Tippett. Rance read it best, worked his way in front, and then got it down to Dustin Martin, who kicks out of bounds on the full again. Well, that's 2 in a row, and Dustin Martin has let his teammates down. And it's Grundy that takes it, keeps it short, brings it into Smith for the Swans.
Smith kicks to the running Richards, marks inside the centre square. Handball to Jetta. Jetta kicks long towards centre half forward. Tippett won't make the contest. Grigg flies unopposed and marks at half back. Delayed the handball. Got teammates sliding by. Grimes is back on the ground. Off to Rance. Delidio's long 30-metre handball finds Ellis on the left boot. Kicks up in the Griffiths direction. Well done by Naismith. They overrun the footy though. Griffiths to Delidio. 1-2 there with Martin. Back to Delidio, back to Ellis. Over the shoulder, holding too long in the tackle, and it'll come back and be a Delidio free kick. And now 50 metres against Towers. And so here's the chance the Tigers faithful wanted. Delidio will shoot for goal from about 10 metres out, 45-degree angle.
Explain that, Stu.
Yeah, so a few supporters not happy with that, but as soon as you let go of the ball, if a person holds you or gives away a free kick to not allow you to get the second possession or the old 1-2, automatic 50 metres.
So Delidio for his second goal and to push the margin back to 13 points. Much needed for the Richmond faithful and the team, of course. He does the business. Richmond get their 7. 46 plays 33 at the 7-minute mark of the third quarter.
Well, how important that's, Stephen, in the kind when you'd sense that as a player. And there was an energy rise in Richmond because they thought if the second one comes now, we're in dire straits. And they fought just sheer tenacity to get hold of it. And that's a good free kick in the sense that he was not able to go on and get back, and probably with that running shot of goal, that shot's a hell of a lot easier than what he was going to have to put up with before. Look, there, I'm amazed. And Martin, who's a great skill, good skill player, gave up the ball twice with 2 kicks in the front half that went over the line on the full. I mean, just unheard of.
I was about to say Rowan's done a really good job, but we looked at that match-up being really exciting. I reckon Rowan's probably got the lead out at the moment. He's been one of their really important players the last 8 weeks when they've been winning the lead out.
Naismith rises and then wins it and gives it to Jack, who gives it to Hanbury, all by hand to McVeigh. He goes by foot, looking for Tippett. It's Tippett and Rance in a wrestle. Rance with the spoil, and now coming in was Grimes. Batchelor 2 goes for the safety. The boundary line might have disguised that, knocking it over. And we'll have a throw in right on 50 here for the Swannies. Brett Delidio has kicked 2 goals tonight. He's kicked 2 goals for every game for the last 5 weeks in a rich vein of form. Marriage paddles it down to of no great advantage. Vlosten back to Marriage, hacks it with the right boot, sliding in and reading it best was Revolt. Jack's got 3, but he is a very long way from home at half-back. Wants to move it quickly. Griffiths is the target. It's Griffiths and Grundy. Grundy with the fist. Reading it off the pack was Delidio, and then he keeps it low. So it's a bouncing ball here. Martin v. Richards. Gordon comes in. Gordon's brought down in a tackle by Shaw. And now the ball comes loose in the pack. They fight, they scrap, they wrestle. Putting some bodies on the line is Griffiths. At the bottom in there is Foley. Miles handballs cleanly to Martin, who can't get it cleanly to Greg. Miles goes again. He's tackled. He is a tough little player, Anthony Miles, for the Tigers.
David, they're just lacking a little bit of composure, centre forward. Just for the opportunities they're getting, they're just a little bit off, whether it's kicks or not getting rid of it early enough or putting a handball into space for their teammate to make the most of their opportunities.
Throw in half forward here for Richmond. Marriage to Foley, who he can't control it. Vlosten, tackled by 2 Swans players. I'll handball it over to you, Rob Cross, for another ball up.
Grandstand AFL with Steve Gillam and David Parkin in the expert chairs. Grigg farms it out. Edwards kicks into the shins of a Swans player at halfback. Clever play by Mitchell. Delayed the handball and swept one to Rampy, who gives on the fly to Shaw. Shaw's little kick, though, Sets a task for Goods. He bumps the ball out of the grasp of Ellis. They go to ground, play on the call. Back to Mitchell. Another possession.
Free kick. Ellis.
Advantage paid. Biggs, long kick towards half forward. Spoil came late. Again, the play on called. Rowan, can he shrug the tackle? Got the handball away. Goods, did he play for it? He was certainly taken high. He's still down at half forward. Will slowly drag himself up. Swans a chance. Comes out to McVeigh. 55 from goal. The trademark sidestep didn't come off this time. There were too many yellow and black jumpers around. They drag him down. Turnover here. Chaplin to half forward. What can Gordon do? He's got Shaw for company. Shaw drags him down, then lands on his head. Play on the call. Gordon tries to wrestle off the experienced former Pie and will come in and ball it up at half forward.
Well done, young man. Fantastic effort when he was infringed against twice.
Yeah.
And that's real courage for the young guy. Well done.
Ball up at left half forward for Richmond. It's lifting again this game. Miles, was he taken high? The umpire couldn't see that because he's on the other side. The much taller man, Tippett, held him up.
Well, she's on a knife edge right here and now. By the way, both sides have reacted.
Tippett holds Marichoff, wins the tap, comes to Parker. Parker's handball's good to Jetta, to Hanbury. Got a right boot, kicks it up towards half forward. Over the head of Grimes, got one hand of danger here. Rowan over the top. Will it sit for Reid? He's in the right forward pocket. Sidestep, wants the left boot. Got a left boot. Sam Reid is just the fact that hits the post. One behind to Sydney. They almost turned something out of nothing. It's a point, 5-4 to 7-4.
Tension rising at Olympic Stadium. Batchelor on the outer side. He brings it in. The kick came from his teammate in Morris. Loose ball. It's picked up by Grundy for the Swans. So a turnover for Tigers. A wasted opportunity, although Grundy almost went out of bounds on the full, but the umpire says no off the hands of Malcheski.
Just a bit cleaner, Sydney. Just particularly around contest situation, better decisions. The hands are better and got Blake's clear. Just anxious a bit at the moment about Richmond. I think the panic stations you talked about, Stephen.
Tigers lead it by 12 points. They've led it from start to this point in the third quarter. Griffiths to Grigg, all hard work. Eventually Newman tries to break free. Sliding in and tackling him as Reece Shaw, who's really lifted his intensity. In fact, most of the Swans players out there have. Tippett, a handball to Parker, who gives it to Jetta, a little one-hander, and he's off. Lewis Jetta. He looks to light up Olympic Stadium, and then he stops, props, and gives it back to Reece Shaw, who's going to put it out in front of Goods. Goods and Batchelor, a bit of a wrestle. Goods wins the footy, handballs backwards to Rampy. He's in two minds. Bearing down is his opponent, Revolt. Can't quite get the tackle. Handballs over to Biggs. Keeps it low. And the defensive spoil. Desperate stuff down there by Deledio with both fists, outstretched arms over the boundary line.
It's look like Richmond just getting outspread around the contest at the moment, just around the stoppages. Sydney just lifting that little bit, really putting Richmond to the sword here.
Tippett in the ruck contest. Cunningham gathered beautifully, dished off to Mitchell. Bouncing ball to the top of the square. Clears the players coming out. Goods was one of those. Then lays a brilliant tackle on Hooley. The ball jars loose. But Richmond have the support at the back. And they can move it up towards half-back. Malcheski's there. One-on-one battle is good with Pettit. Allows his teammate Lloyd to come in. Back to Jack. 55 from goal. Kicks towards the top of the square again. Up goes Tippett over the back of the pack. Couldn't complete the mark. Richmond trying to tie it up. 20 out from the Swans' goal at the southern end. They achieved their mission. There's a wrestle behind the play as well. It amounts to nothing.
You can't let Tippett, if you're on Tippett, you can't let him get a run at it like that. He's clean over the top. Didn't catch what he should have, but you can't let him have a run at it.
12-point lead here to the Tigers. Going through as Mitchell held without the footy. Quick snap here from Towers.
Touched, definitely touched.
It was touched. One behind. Margin 11 points at the 13.5-minute mark.
Finals footy has come a week early. This is pulsating stuff.
Before the game, Richmond had nothing to lose. They knew they had to come. Now they're in front. They've actually got something to lose in this second half, and they're just playing a little bit like they're under pressure a little bit more this second half.
Hanging on for dear life. Ellis to himself, and then Long on the outer side, looking for the boundary line. McVeigh says, I'll take it over.
Kelly, the thing you can't fault the Richmond players about is their absolute endeavour. They're throwing themselves at the ball with absolute fearlessness.
Yeah, you just wonder how much of that's taken out of them, especially the last 8 weeks, but also tonight. This first half's been massive for them.
3-10 they were at round 14. The challenge was they had to win every game for the rest of the season to make the finals, and that's what they've done so far. The very last hurdle here tonight. Win and they're in, lose and done and dusted. So a ball up. 50 out from the Swans' goal. Swans are threatening. Parker to McVeigh, the co-captain. It's a high ball. Goods runs at it. He's been in everything. It's off hands. A real scramble at ground level at the danger zone. Still inside 50. Hawley meets it. Does well. Keeps his footing. Handball away to Martin. Takes off through half-back. Now, can he hit up a target? It's Pettard and Malcheski. Will it sit for Malcheski? He's at the back. Pettard slides in. Push in the back against Pettard. Free kick, Malcheski.
Just a silly free kick. I mean, that's just stupid. That's a non-contest. I mean, he'd be coming sitting with me and having a talk on the bench on that one. Honest contest. That's all you need.
Malcheski backwards to Biggs. And he goes short to Grundy, who flicks it wider still to Lloyd. So they've gone from one side to the other at the northern end. Lloyd marking in the pocket under the giant screen here at Olympic Stadium. No one to kick to, so just goes long. And the fly by Parker. That is the second impressive mark tonight. Handballs onto Hanbury. Puts him in all sorts of strife, though. McVeigh comes in. He can't save the day. And the Tigers through Cochin might be able to steal it. Although Jetta dancing his way, working in a confined space. Kicks to centre half forward, and it's Chaplin. Chaplin marks for the Tigers, and they're away with a kick sideways.
Finds Nathan Gordon, the former Swan, marks at left half back. Urging players to lead into a bit of space. He's got Marich. Oh, he went up one-handed. Now he's got Naismith coming at him. Lays the tackle. Marich just gets a kick away. Pettard overruns the football and the Swans could be away. Malcheski gives to Hanbury. Danger signs here to Parker. Tippett will it carry to him on the bounce. The big man stretches, gathers. Can he push off Chaplin, who does beautifully to shred the ball away? And then Tippett does a similar thing. Miles, was he taken high? Play on. Chaplin spills into the contest as well.
Jeez,
good all-round tough footy.
Did cop a high one. Just a rub of the green going with the Swans at the moment, whereas in the first half it's all going with the Tigers.
He was taken high, but I think his back was to the umpire and the umpire just didn't see it.
11-point lead to Richmond, 16 and a half minutes gone in the third quarter. Earlier today it was an 8-point win to Fremantle over Port Adelaide, so Port will finish fifth. Miles taken down in a strong tackle from Jack, and the umpire will have to come in and ball it up off the contest. A couple of ginger players. Cochin finally peels himself off the ground, and Hanbury hands on hips, sucking in the deep breaths as well. Everyone just recharges their batteries for a moment. Thrown up in the air. Towers up against Marich. Barging through was Mitchell. Strong young body. Grigg. Over the top of him was McVeigh. Can Richmond clear this pack? Cochin wrestled there by Hanbury. Hanbury comes up with a foot. He just squeezes it out to McVeigh. His kick chopped down. Marich into space. Revolt there with Edwards. Well done, Revolt. Edwards comes through. Can't get away from Ramp. He does eventually. Over the head handballs. Beautiful to Grigg. Low pass to Martin on the chest. 55 out. Tigers stream forward inside attacking 50.
Short.
For now, they're all marked. Foley did offer the short lead. He goes up towards full forward. Petted one hand, couldn't complete the mark. Revolt working as well. A push has been paid. Over the shoulder going the Swans' way goes to Malcheski.
Malcheski moves it quickly. It's a bouncing ball for Lloyd. Can he keep it in play? He does. Hard in against the boundary line on the outer wing. Loops the handball over the top. This is Mitchell. He kicks short to Goods. Goods loops the handball over the top to Hanbury. What can Hanbury do? From 50 out, unselfishly, top of the goal square. Wasn't a great kick. It's all Tigers, and Hawley meets the ball first. Hawley gives it to Deledio, who gives it to Grigg, to Hawley, who's met heavily by Parker. Bodies on the line. Grigg goes again to Vlosten, who gives it over the top. Now they've worked it to half forward. Edwards short, and Pettard should mark. No, the defensive spoil from Rampy. Rampy does well. Grigg goes again. It's a 50-50 ball. Off the deck was Martin. He keeps it low. One-on-one inside 50. Was it a push in the back against Richards, who played it beautifully on Cochin? Richards does well. Gives it off to Jetta. Jetta brings it back in the centre corridor, and all by himself is Mitchell, and he can run. Mitchell takes off. Goes short. Goods marks. They're building the Swans. They're building. Adam Goods, who's starting to get involved, hits up Jack, who marks on his chest, and Kieran Jack, the co-captain, will have a set shot. He'll have to kick this from about 52. He doesn't like the distance, so he gives it off unselfishly and goes to Sam Reid, who marks tougher angle, but maybe just a few metres in. 45-degree angle here for Sam Reid from right on 50.
Tell you what, if I was a Richmond player, Richmond fan, Richmond coach, I'd be filthy with Ricky Pettard right now. 4 efforts, he's coming to the bench now.
Leroy Jetta is just sneaking behind. He wanted it, but Sam Reid is going to back himself in from 50 with an absolute bomb. Here they come, the Swans. They're breathing down the Tigers' neck. Richmond 7-4-46. Sydney 6-5-41. It's a 5-point ball game at the 20-minute mark of the third term.
And Conker's been injected. I'm not sure who's been subbed.
It's Ricky Pedder.
Yeah.
Well,
no surprise there.
That's not. Well, it is. I'm not being. You don't want to destroy people's careers. Pedard by 4. First of all, the free kick pushing the back, but he just didn't go. The run over the top in front of us, he didn't put his head down and take the ball. The one-handed attempt to mark down there when he should have put 2 up, and then finally
another free kick.
The free kick. I mean, there's 4 incidents that cost your team. And then they finished that goal as a result of those things that didn't happen by.
Well, you get that goal, but you also missed 2 up the other end as well, so almost 2 or 3 goal turnaround.
Hanbury comes hard off the wing, taken down in the tackle low, and it's still inside the centre of the Olympic Stadium. Jack's lifted his rating, so Sam Reid, who kicked that thumping goal moments ago. And Richmond must lift.
See, good coaching would have had him off after the first one. As I said to you, didn't I, the first one? You can't do
Thousands of Richmond fans have made the trip to Sydney. Cochin sends it inside 50. Marich pushes and shoves, gets rid of his man. Rampy superior pace, gives to Grundy. Gives to Malcheski. Oh, terrible handball. Cochin stretch with the left hand. Couldn't control it. Then lays a strong tackle. Well done by Sydney. And it was a high tackle that Cochin laid. And so the ball will go to Hanbury at centre half back. Cochin laying all over the Swans start. But there were no 50. Swans fans wanted it. Hanbury doesn't waste any time. They flare wide. Mitchell all alone on the eastern wing on the logo. Kicks towards half forward. Long lead from Towers. He's up. He can play on. He's got Jack. Oh, he just slipped over. Jack was alone momentarily inside 50. But Towers was held up. He goes by hand to Jeddah. One of the better kicks in the team. There are plenty of them, of course. Up to Goods, off his hands. Falls to the back of the pack. Richmond have the numbers. Gordon here. Well played. Over the top to Newman. Can he get away from McVeigh? McVeigh does well. Nudges him off the footy. Then teases his opponent. Into the pocket to Goods. Marks. Juggles under heavy pressure from Grimes. He's got it 30 out. Tough angle. 5 metres in from the boundary line in the right forward pocket.
Outstanding play by Joe McVeigh then. Newman didn't want to rush that one out, but it's probably almost better to rush it 70 out from goal than keep it in and keep it alive for Sydney. But you rush it out, you buy 5 or 10 seconds and you can get all your players back in defensive 50.
Goods for the lead for the first time tonight for Sydney from 30 metres out. Adam Goods is a beautiful kick from the boundary line. The Swans are in front. They trailed 5-3 to nothing in the first quarter. They were 27 down in the second quarter. They lead by 1, 7-5 to 7-4 as the Tigers' final hope slipping away.
We call it the Premiership quarter, the third quarter, and we made some predictions about it. Took a bit longer than I thought. I thought it would be 10 or 15 minutes. It's about 20 in now. The die has been cast, in my opinion, and Sydney are just starting to do what we know they can do, because just to relieve the pressure's come off the accelerator just a bit, not because they're not trying, because they've been so fatigued in doing what they've done without getting the result, Richmond.
Well, we're about to learn a lot about this Richmond team. What have they got left in them for this season? The Swans have hit the front for the first time. They lead it by 1 point. We've got about 4 minutes to go in this third term. Off hands at centre half forward. Tippett down to Jeddah. Jeddah's handball missed the mark of Parker, but he goes and wins it again. Parker working quickly to Cunningham, and then it's stolen by Conker, the sub. Straight into the action. Kicks out wide. Getting there first will be Reece Shaw. Right on his hammer is Foley, who wins it and gives it back to Conker, and then Miles, but he is tackled by Jack over the boundary line. And there is warm applause on the outer wing for the co-captain Kieran Jack as he rises from the ground. Socks down, orange boots on. Reid into the ruck. Reid beats Marich to the ball. Reid goes and gets it again. A handball to Mitchell, to McVeigh off hands, and then to Parker, who's a classy player. Parker, he's already kicked a goal. Can he kick a second? No. Right across the face. But they are threatening every time, the Swans. They lead it by 2 points.
You get the feeling they're going right after Richmond here. Reid's back into the ruck and around the midfield. There's no spare anymore, so they're man-on-man everywhere all over the ground at the moment.
Richmond through Hooley to bring the ball back into play from the southern end, kicking around the western side. Smith up against the bigger Chaplin. Richards held there by Gordon. It dribbles out of bounds.
The most significant player in all is Jack. I think Jack might have had 10 tackles by now. He's been instrumental round the contest in slowing the opposition down and doing something constructive himself. Great leadership.
Reid in ruck against Marich, who probably won the tap, but first of the footy again for now the Swans. Mitchell received from Parker. Here's Kieran Jack again, the little side step, the trademark, kicks up towards half forward. It's over Good's head, and a good juggling mark taken by Dylan Grimes at left half back. He's got a couple of players on down the line. One of those is Miles. Charging off the bench was Lloyd. Miles kicks long towards Cochin, who got around Hanbury, then he was taken down all around his shoulders. Extraordinary, no free kick. Play on the call, comes to Richards. Richards is bumped by Gordon, gets the kick towards half forward. Tippett flies high against a couple of Tigers. It goes out of bounds 70 metres around from the Swans' goal.
Harshly
7-6
dealt
to
by
7-4. Should have been a free kick.
Trent Cochin, yeah, being manhandled. I love Alex Rance's game on Kurt Tippett though tonight, David. He's been outstanding.
Agreed.
Held Tippett to 1 goal. And Woods relishing the space down in the forward line with no Buddy there tonight as well. As Marich goes at it with both hands in the ruck and taps it straight over the boundary line. Lewis Jetta looks at the umpire as if to say, I thought that was deliberate if a ruckman does that.
I think it's if it goes out on the full.
So we will go again. 70 around from the Swans goal. It's taken them a while to wake up here at the Olympic Stadium. The Tigers kick the first 5. Again, Marich in front. Miles with the kick out of the pack. Jack Revolt trying to take one over Rampy there, but he's caught Rampy high and given away a free, Jack Revolt. Rampy just grabbing at his nose to see if there's any blood there. Defensive side of the broadcast wing. Now he goes with a long kick. It'll sit here for Tippett, but in front Marich. Just plugging the hole. He'll kick sideways. It's not a great kick. A runner almost could have taken the mark there. Decked out in the fluorescent pink. Instead it was Ellis. Nudges the kick over the top to Vlosten. Vlosten has a runner. Peeling off was Newman. Takes a slips catch just in front of the boundary line on the outer side. So Chris Newman not too sure what to do. He'll kick it to half forward. The fly from behind was Richards, and as a result of that he's given away a free. Already pulled down a bit of a screamer in this match. So I think
relay free kick, Kelly. 20 metres out to Jack Rewald. Apparently he was dumped off the play by Dane Rampy.
So Richards was in heated discussion with the field umpire.
Yeah, I thought it was 50 metres for
swearing.
For swearing
That's
or
what
abuse or something
well.
in the umpire. I'm glad you were watching where it was happening.
Because they were very verbal, but instead it's Jack Revolt, Deledio, who accepts the free kick. This should be money in the bank for Deledio in his third, and he gets it. So it's the Tigers back in front. And, well, you can probably hear what the Swans fans thought about that.
I tell you what, the umpire had to work extremely hard too. It did a fair bit left in the swing of the kick and just got in. But that gives them, just when the game had just about gone from them, it gives them some hope. Was on the end of free kicks and ill-disciplined acts from Sydney.
Yeah, I just struggle to think where they're going to create opportunities from. Their last 2 have been 50-metre penalties.
Yep.
Other than that, they just look like they haven't got much forward structure. Rampy's done a great job since quarter time on Rewalt, and Griffiths, and likewise Grundy on Griffiths.
And Steve Rewalt got a whack in the ribs earlier, so we'll have to keep an eye on him. He's obviously a little bit sore.
Reid in the ruck, down to Mitchell. McVeigh went without it, reached in one hand. Marich does well. He'll do the ruck roving, sends a tumbling ball up towards forward 50. Revolt scoops it under himself, comes up with the ball, farms it out to Deledio, to Grigg. Chance for Conker. He's the sub on for Pettit, out towards the pocket. Pushing hard there was Martin, spills off hands and goes out of bounds. Nick Smith strong in the contest.
No, Rob, no fluency, no time and space to deliver the ball well in the 50. It keeps going up, awkward little chip kicks up near, etc. They just cannot, they don't have a structure that can to win. Griffith's not doing enough.
Reid against Marich again. Cochin comes up with the footy. Well done by Hooley, back to Morris. Gets a lot on that curl, but it's out of bounds on the full.
That's what I mean. I was just running it right, and I was kicking it up in there and hoping like hell, and it goes 6 or 8 metres over the boundary line. Who wants to be on the end of that?
Ted Richards, who's he's sort of trying to take high flyers. It's his last chance this year to take some screamers, because he's going to have to do the team thing during the finals and spoil all the time. So there's nothing to play for tonight. Let's just take some hangers and have some fun on a Saturday night in Sydney.
24 hours left in the home and away season, so you can still get goal of the year. Going for the contender, Ted Richards. 8-4-52 the Tigers. They lead it by 4 points over the Swans, 7-6-48. Final minute of this third term, and there are some tired bodies out there.
Yes, it's going to be played the last quarter at a pedestrian pace, I would suggest.
All up on the outer side. Marich goes at it. Mitchell with his kick away. It's a high up and under. Tippett's there, hands to it. Off hands reading at best was Mitchell. Only as far as Chaplin though for the Tigers. To Cochin, who gets the hands away to Edwards, who pumps it inside 50. There's no one home. This would bring the 5,000 fans that have come up the highway from Melbourne to their feet, but it's not to be across the face.
That's the only way, Kel, they were going to score. Somebody to actually get a break from the middle, and there weren't too many of them, run down the corridor and kick it over the heads of everybody.
Sweetly timed footy. Just the accuracy wasn't there as Lloyd marks. It's like he's wearing one of those 1-3 jumpers. It's like 4 mud, because you can't see the other 4 on the back of his number. There's three-quarter time. The Tigers a massive chance to win this game. They lead still. But, gee, it's eerily like that game back at round 14 when they got a big break and the Swans came and in the end won by 11 points. But so far the Tigers are doing what's been asked of them. A win will put them into the finals. It will mean they'll play Port 5th versus 8th. Richmond 8-5-53. Swans 7-6-48 at three-quarter time. Goal scorers 3 to Deledio and Revolt. Singles to Miles and Gordon. And for the Swans, McVeigh, Tippett, Rowan, Reid, Towers, Towers. Parker has 1, as does Adam Goods. They're the 7 goal scorers for the Sydney Swans. Three-quarter time here at the Olympic Stadium, I should say. It's the Swans trailing by 5 points. The Tigers a chance to play finals footy. You're on Grandstand AFL and ABC Local Radio, News Radio and Grandstand Digital.
There's a world of great sport content right at your fingertips with ABC Grandstand Online.
Visit abc.net.au/grandstand.
Get the latest sports results and stories and find out what's coming up with the broadcast schedule. Log on to abc.net.au/grandstand for sports coverage like no other.
Grandstand Sport.
It's on your radio, online, on digital radio and on your mobile. Saturday footy.
Grandstand AFL.
He can go for Homer. He can pop it over the top to Rowan. Top of the goal square. Ball on the deck. Rowan gets around 1, gets around 2, and he goals. And that will bring the Swans to life.
Martin, back to Deledio, back to Ellis, over the shoulder, holding too long in the tackle, and will come back and be a Deledio free kick, and now 50 metres. So Deledio for his second goal, and to push the margin back to 13 points. Much needed for the Richmond faithful, and the team, of course. He does the business.
He doesn't like the distance, so he gives it off unselfishly and goes to Sam Reid. Morigetta is just sneaking behind. He wanted it, but Sam Reid is going to back himself in from 50 with an absolute bomb. Here they come, the Swans.
McVeigh does well, nudges him off the footy, then teases his opponent into the pocket to Goods. Marks, juggles under heavy pressure from Grimes. He's got it 30 out. Goods for the lead for the first time tonight for Sydney from 30 metres out. Adam Goods is a beautiful kick from the boundary line. The Swans are in front.
Deledio, who accepts the free kick. This should be money in the bank for Deledio in his third, and he gets it. So it's the Tigers back in front.
Grandstand AFL.
On ABC Local Radio, online and on ABC Grandstand Digital.
Three-quarter time at the Olympic Stadium, Richmond 8-5-53, Swans 7-6-48. Dave Mark, I was just watching the Swans there. Lots of players getting calf and hamstring rubs. Tigers all up listening to coaches.
Yeah, that's right, Rob. Interesting, actually. Damien Hardwick came down the steps here to address his team, and then it was like he forgot his keys. He raced off down the race. He was gone for about 2 minutes, and now he's just gone in to talk to his players. But you're right. There was about 5 or 6 or 7 Swans players getting rubbed down. They've all just got together in there. John Longmire is just talking to them now. We should also mention, too, that for the Swans, Zach Jones, the substitute, is into the game. Sam Naismith was subbed out late in that quarter.
Good on you, Dave Mark on the boundary. David Parkin, are we set for Tigers finals action, or are the Swans just going to be too good?
Well, what I was just thinking, I'd love to be in the heads of both John Longmire and Damien Hardwick now as coaches, and as they come up to the final address in the season with not too much hanging on it for Sydney, except the confidence to go in on the back of a good win, and Hardwick in trying to stimulate the team's effort, because in fact they've been very brave and very consistent. It hasn't been a lack of commitment to the task in hand. They haven't been fundamentally as good in the clinches. I think they've won the ball as much as they have, and I think the contested possession is still well up in Richmond's favour, 126 to 117. Well, that's a reasonable, but that's not the issue. Has been, you talked about the spread, I think, Stephen, before, from the contest. They're not only winning it and doing something better, they've got better options on the outside, less pressure on that player who receives from the clearance, and he's doing a better job in getting it in. It's a fascinating. I think Richmond can win, but I think their work rate has been so hard for so long that to find an edge now to actually break away and kick 2 or 3 goals without an answer from Sydney is just about, it's just about an unrealistic expectation, in my opinion.
So you've been in this situation as a coach so many times over the years. What do you say to them? Because it does become so mental. They led North Melbourne by about 35, lost by 28 earlier this season. They led an elimination final last year against Carlton, and they lost it in this fashion. What are your final words to the Tigers players?
Not remind them of that, Kerry, because Kelly, the fact is that they're probably already deep. There's a deep-seated concern about where they are and the job that is in hand. I hope for the people. Look, there's a terrific bunch of Richmond supporters, and they've got fabulous supporters. I'd actually like to hear the Richmond song here tonight.
Well, you can't lose either way. I reckon they've got 2 of the best songs, both these sides, going around in the competition. Don't mind the old Swannies number as well. Almost back underway in the final quarter. It's Richmond 8-5-53. The Swans 7-6-48. The Tigers lead it by 5 points. They led by 33 in the first quarter after kicking 5-3 to nothing. They led by 27 points during the second quarter. The Swans have come hard at them, and the Tigers hang on. Here's Kelly Underwood.
30 minutes of the season left for the Tigers, and they will give it everything. Will it be enough? It's Towers in the ruck against the might of Marich. Marich rises high. Off the ground went Mitchell as far as Reid. Back to Towers, and then a wedgie little kick inside 50. It sits up for Goods. Can't get it. Rance clears off to Conker. Started as the sub. He's now on for Petard. Conker to half forward. The ball beats Martin, and now Martin's forced to defend. Grundy. Little handball back to Smith, who kicks looking for Jetta, but launching himself nicely in the air. Taking the mark was Ellis. Puts the hand up and just says, slow things down. Heart must be thumping out of the chest at the moment for these Tigers players. So much on the line as Ellis kicks it to half forward. Sydney there, bumping a Swans player off the ball was Gordon, only as far as Edwards. Centering kick to Revolt. Revolt marks top of the goal square for the perfect start in this final term.
And Kelly, what we should have said is, boys, by playing state football and just solid football, this is a risk-taking quarter. And you'd have to say each of the 4 or 5 instances now, it's been Richmond who's taken the creative pressure, decided to take it, and it's worked for them.
Jack Revolt from the top of the goal square. He is a big game performer. And he's got his 4th goal, and the Tigers are out to an 11-point lead.
It would be great, Kel, if he was the starter, and he was, if you remember. He got them up and going early with some really good stuff. If he was the finisher today, that would be a marvellous thing for both Jack Revolt and the Richmond Football Club.
Well, he kicked the first of the night, kicked 3 in the first quarter, and his 4th comes early in this last quarter. The Tigers 9-5-59, the Swans 7-6-48.
Kelly, that was a beautiful piece of play by Edwards as he was running along the boundary and had the vision to spot Rewald directly in front and just hit him perfectly.
And all you want from Griffiths is that contest to bring it to the ground on Grundy. Second and third quarter, that was getting marked or spoiled, and they weren't cleaning up, but composure by Edwards to finish that play off was great.
Dean Towers, all 189 centimetres of him, up against the 200-centimetre Raging Bull Marich. Guess who wins? Marich tapped it down, but the Swans will get the clearance. Jones gave back to Towers. High kick inside attacking 50 towards the right forward pocket. Coming out hard was McVeigh, bumped away from the football. Richmond have the defence around the footy, but it's forced out of bounds. Good result, Sydney. 30 around from their goal. Richmond lead by 11 points. They got the first of the last quarter to just push that margin out to a handy buffer in a low-scoring game. 9 goals, plays 7. Almost 3 minutes gone in the final stanza. Reid up against Marich, who wins the tap again. Ellis went without it for the Tigers. It's hard and tough at the base of the pack. Will have the ball up 30 out from the Swans' goal. Cochin flips it back. The last man to get up was Hanbury, who didn't play in the game in round 14, which the Swans won by 11 points. Good strong tackling by Conker on Jack. He's going nowhere, and the umpire will come and ball it up again. Earlier today, the Blues and the Bombers tied 90 apiece, and Freo beat Port by 8 points. Thrown up. Swans a chance to get a goal back. Richmond trying to clear the danger zone. McVeigh was excellent to Jetta. Jetta's high kick, though, is not going to curl around anywhere near enough and goes out of bounds on the full. The margin stays at 11 points in the Tigers' favour.
Jetta playing his 100th game tonight. His mum and his sister flew over from Western Australia. His dad's scared of flying, got to the airport and then said, no, I can't quite do it, as the Tigers bring it back into play. And Marich, in fact it was Griffiths rather, tallest player there, plucks a strong mark. He kicks long to the outer side. It's all Sydney. Richards, chest mark. Handballs to Towers, handballs to Rampy. He's under a bit of pressure, side steps around Gordon, handballs backwards to Shaw, and then kicks. It was bounced and then popped up and sits for Mitchell, who goes to a one-on-one. It's Jetta and Grigg. Grigg punches it over the boundary line. A throw in on the outer wing, the city wing here at the Olympic Stadium. Started this match in rain. It's been slippery conditions. The rain has stopped as the ball comes back into play. Towers again does well, gets in front to Mitchell, but picking it off the deck was Edwards, and then just launches a bomb inside 50, a bouncing ball. It's a 2-on-1, Sydney's favour, and Rampy happy to see it over the boundary line. Revolt holds out the arms and calls for deliberate. And it's fitting that the Tigers are kicking in this last quarter to the Parramatta Road end, which is where the Tigers Army, the cheer squad, Rob Cross, are sitting at the moment. They're up on their feet.
They are, thousands of them. Conker taking in a strong tackle, couldn't get rid of the football. He's still held up. Swans are holding the ball, they're not going to get it. Now the kick towards the top of the square. Chance here for Richmond. Rampy goes to ground over the shoulder. Free kick Swans. It might be Nick Smith. And so the Swans through Smith have it in the last line of defence down in front of those red and black supporters. Dishes off to Grundy, bounces his way through the right back pocket, favours the eastern side, pokes one down towards the half back flank, hits the chest of Cunningham. Sliding by was Rowan, goes into the middle. McVeigh, delayed kick, good spoil away. Edwards to Ellis. Ellis out towards half forward. Gordon can't get there. Can he gather the bouncing ball? He can. Waits for teammates to move it. Centre half forward. A slip, a turnover. Cunningham stops himself before he was charging away and then flares the ball out to the wing and finds the chest of Luke Parker.
Can they make them pay, the Swans? Parker. A cute little kick round the corner to Jack, who easily got round Conker, dealt with him with strength and then kept the kick low. Sliding in was Reid, taking the mark. Now Sam Reid's already launched a bomb from outside 50 and he'll need to do it again. And there's a bit of a disturbance on the field because we've got a fan has run out onto the field and 3 security guards have got him and they're just taking him away at the moment.
Shades of the state of origin out here.
Yeah, clothes on this boat, didn't he?
He is clothed. We can confirm that. It's a bit chilly tonight in Sydney, Parko.
True.
Meanwhile, Sam Reid on the approach to keep Sydney in this contest. He never gave that a chance and misses to the left-hand side. So the Swans skip along to 48 and it's the Tigers 59, in fact 49. The giant scoreboard just a little slow to tick over. It's a 10-point ball game, 15 minutes left in this one.
Reid now has 1 goal, 2 for the night as the Tigers back into play out towards the western side at right half back. Marich went up, got hands to it, couldn't complete the mark. Grundy fights on at ground level, lays a strong tackle, a push in the back over the shoulder, whatever you like. It's a Richmond free kick going to Miles.
Did well. I thought he carried the whole pack over the line where he was trying to go, and the umpire thought, gee, that must have been pushed. He went that strong.
He's had now 19 possessions, very close to the boundary line. Will just stay in. The spoil came from Richards, and it's knocked out of bounds near the interchange gate.
And Rob, Jared McVeigh just limped from the field a short while ago. Looked like he was in a bit of pain. Maybe it was an ankle or something like that.
So the Swans will be hoping there's no late injuries coming up against Fremantle next week here in Sydney. Toss back into play. Griffiths, a double-hander, playing for it again. He might have been struck a little bit high. Just a little slap around the neck. Miles wins another kick. The former Giant on the wing. Short to Foley. Marks in front of Richards. Between wing and half forward on the western side. Looks up towards half forward and sets it long inside attacking 50. Where are the Flyers? Revolt didn't go up in the end, over the back of the pack. Ellis can't run under the footy, and it goes out of bounds in the right forward pocket with the Tigers leading by 10 points, 8 minutes gone.
Dave, that's a money kick going inside for Richmond tonight. If they're going to win the game, they're going to have to get better entries inside 50.
Listen to the yellow and black army. The ball's thrown in right in front of them. They are hanging over the fence here. It comes out to Ellis, who blazes away. It's a high ball. It'll go out of bounds on the faller. Sydney. Free kick. Now Chesky takes it. He could turn around and just about high-five some of those Tigers fans that are banging the fence full of voice. Now Chesky looking for Tippett. Well done by Rance. Tippett just the one goal so far. Rance has done really well, but Tippett does well in this contest. Goes back and wins it. Handballs to Hanbury. Looking for Jack. Misread it. Has to go back and scrap at ground level. Then he gets it out to Reid. He drops it. Comes back to Chaplin. A high up and under inside 50. Revolt sliding. Revolt unable to control it. Martin trying to break free. Edwards. This is desperate defence by the Swans. Back to Miles, who brings it back to the top of the goal square. Flying. Revolt in that pack. Grundy needs to be clever. And his kick was smothered at ricochets. Back to Rowan. Last line of defence. It's nervous times for the Swans, and Lloyd, the youngster, able to clear it. A cool head there from Lloyd. And Cunningham charges and marks on the outer side. Brings it back in play to Mountchesky. Trying to launch something from half-back. It flicks back the Tigers' way. An awkward half volley to Cochin, to Grigg, and now to Ellis from 50. They've got free players everywhere, and marking on the lead for the Tigers is Edwards.
Tell you what, Nick Mountchesky, what was that kick? He's usually a beautiful kick.
Yeah.
Just a few times tonight the Sydney defence have been under pressure, when probably perceived pressure from the first half that Richmond had, but
he had Jack chasing, but Jack wasn't trying an inch if he'd only known that.
It's just a turnover that you can't have because everyone's offside, and you actually can't defend that.
So Shane Edwards, he's played every game this season. This is the most important kick of 2014, and he's missed. He hangs it out to the right, and another opportunity goes begging for the Tigers as the attendance figure flashes up on the Giant screen. 31,227, and they're all on the edge of their seat here at Olympic Stadium.
Mountchesky right on the goal line, pokes a kick towards centre half back. Pinpoint found Grundy. Edwards has had 20 odd touches tonight. He's been okay, but he has no goals and 3 behinds. Handball over the top from Mitchell. Found Rowan, the racehorse. They've got a couple. One Jetta, one Rowan. Rowan, a lovely long ball running onto his Jones. Couldn't quite get there. The spoil from behind came from Rance, and he belts it out of bounds in the right forward pocket for the Swans.
I'll tell you who has put his hand up for next week. It's a bloke called Mitchell. He has been, since their revival, latest second quarter right through to now, almost their most instrumental player.
Just his 6th game for the season tonight.
11 tackles, David. Tom Mitchell.
Throw in. Towers was up. The small ruckman comes out. The Tigers from half back to the hard running Ellis. He's got pace to burn. Backs himself with a bounce. Dishes off to Edwards. Edwards back to Conker. Had to stop momentarily. Had support behind though. Handball came from Miles. Back to Conker on the eastern wing. Lovely kick towards centre half forward. Mark is taken by Gordon. Players stream inside, attacking 50. Short ball is excellent. Richmond a chance. Lost in space.
And there's the answer, Stephen, to your suggestion. He could have gone long. It was 3-1 in Sydney's favour. He waited until somebody cut back into the space. That's the very statement you made 5 minutes ago.
And that's what you can do against Sydney, because they do flood back and protect that goal face.
The 12-minute mark of the last quarter. This would make it 17 points. A low-scoring game. Tough for the Swans. Vlosten strikes it beautifully. It just fades across the face. Hands to it. Another behind. Tigers 9-7. Swans 7-7. 12 points in it.
Not just this quarter, but they've created more opportunities to convert than Sydney have in lots of ways.
So Malcheski, can he make amends for the last kick that he coughed up? He does. And he hits up Hanbury, turns, spins, takes off, and then a beautiful kick to Mitchell, sliding in and racking up the possessions. In fact, it's the sub, Zach Jones. So Jones, the late inclusion for Buddy Franklin. His kick isn't great, and Rance chops it off. Rance so good tonight, although this kick is sideways and it sits up for an anxious moment before Batchelor eventually takes the mark. Closing late was McVeigh. He nearly gobbled it up. Batchelor to the outer side and the safety of the boundary line. I don't know about you guys in the box, but this is tough and tense to watch. I hate to think how the Tigers fans are feeling right now.
He's been terrific, Alex Rance, but just at times he lets himself down with that concentration with ball in hand.
Been some great games today so far. A draw at the MCG between the Bombers and the Blues. Just 8 points in it between the Dockers and Port, with Fremantle getting up inside attacking 50 for the Swans. Reed's got a couple to beat. Can't do so. Richmond defence working strongly across half-back, and they sweep it forward back towards the wing. 12 points in this game. Shaw the spoil. Out comes Hooley off half-back. He's claimed in a very strong tackle. The ball jarred free, but Richmond are running to it in numbers. Came to Miles, to Deledio. Shrugs the Jetta tackle. Handballs back to Foley. His kick up towards half forward. The wrestle there. Rampy and Revolt coming in to help was Malcheski. Handball back to Rampy. Inboard it comes to Mitchell. He's got some space. Tom Mitchell runs through the middle of the Olympic Stadium. Kicks up towards half forward. Towers there, outpointed beautifully by Rance. And Alex Rance marks between fullback and centre half-back at the northern end. And the Tigers hang on to their 12-point lead. 14 gone last quarter.
Well done.
So we're halfway through this last term. And the Tigers are holding on. Ellis, a fly from Griffiths, comes down to Morris. And then Grundy should be happy to see this over as he tackles Conker right in front of the Richmond bench. Trent Cotchin.
Terrific effort by Ranson. He's going to kick it long, and he drew the ball back underneath him, kept possession. Great decision making.
Cotchin on, Hanbury goes to him. Standing side by side. This is Marich and Tippett. And the throw-in favours Marich's side, although Tippett does really well to get his hand to it. Off the ground, the Tigers through Grigg. A kick to half forward. It splits the 3 or 4 players, and mopping up is Rowan. He's under a bit of pressure here because he's been pursued by Conker. And the handball was terrible, and Martin had a shot. He had a shot, but it blazed off the side of the boot.
I hope they don't rue these opportunities. The Edwards set shot, the Vlosten set shot, and now that one.
It landed about 30 rows back, and a very annoyed Tigers fan threw that Sharon back onto the ground.
Is that 3 out on the full now from Martin?
It might be.
Long kick out to the half-back flank. Rowan to Tippett. Jones about to be hammered in the tackle. Thanks, mate. Thanks, teammate. As Jack comes in to remonstrate with Miles, but there's really nothing in that. Miles is completely within his right to come hard. Jack doing the captain team thing and standing up for his younger teammate in just his 4th game. Zach Jones gives it off there to Malcheski. Low pass into the middle. Bending at the knees and taking it between the eyes. Marking was Jetta. Lovely weighted ball. On to Hanbury. Can he gather? It sits beautifully. Needs the right boot. No, he doesn't. He wants the outside of the left and almost conjured the miraculous goal. But he gets a push just as he delivered ball to boot against Trent Cotchin. And so Hanbury on the good side for left foot of the right forward pocket from 30. Hanbury hasn't kicked a goal so far tonight. To bring the margin back to 5 points. It's torture for Tigers fans. 16 minutes gone last quarter. The Swans aren't giving up here. They want to win the game even though top spot is locked up. Richmond are begging a favour of them. They're not going to get it. They've got to win it on their merit. In comes Hanbury from 30 metres. The little champ delivers the goal. Sydney get their 8. It's a 5-point ball game. 17 gone, final quarter at the Olympic Stadium.
Well, that just rips your heart out as a Tigers supporter, player, fan, just coach, just ripping your hair out. You've dominated play for this quarter. You've had 3 or 4 really good opportunities to put the Swans away, and then they go down. One opportunity. Geez, it's a Tiggy Touchwood free kick, I reckon, for mine. It's pushed him in the side as he kicked, but Daniel Hanbury, good enough to go back and slot it. Geez, they needed that one, Sydney, but Richmond have been very brave.
Well, in the context of the game too, Stephen, I mean, a lot like that had just been let go, as you would think. Why he pulled that one, I don't know.
It's compelling football, and hope still dangles before the Tigers' eyes. Back underway, and it's Shaw with the kick. Ellis couldn't control it. Jetta goes in. Handballs to no one. Trying to swoop and pick it up off the deck was Lloyd. He does. He gets the handball to Hanbury. Goes back to Lloyd. Looking to give it off to Grundy. Spins, turns, and does really well to kick to the standing man in Parker, who gets it off to Towers. And Towers kicks looking for Goods. Drops it. Goods drops it in the goal square. And now there's a mad scramble. Lurking is McVeigh outside of the boot. No. Outside of the boot, half a metre out, and he just tried to toe poke it through, but he missed the big sticks, and it's a behind.
Long ball out for Richmond, spoiled away. I know it's tough, Steve, but you wonder whether that ball should have been put out and towards the right forward pocket for Goods to run onto. He tried to kick it on top of his head, easy done. But
yeah, he's running flat out, and I think he just wanted to give it to him as quick as he possibly could, but he probably had another couple of metres just to put it to his advantage.
Boundary throw in, left half forward. The Swans chant now drowns out the Tigers. 3 or 4 or 5 to every one Richmond supporter around the ground. Mind you, the Tigers fans are vocal as ever. They're big and they're bold, and they're leading the game at the 19-minute mark of the last quarter, but it's a 5-point ball game. Comes to Cunningham. Jack's dangerous in this position from the pocket. It's a centering ball to Goods. Couldn't complete the chest mark. The pressure was poured on by the Richmond defence. Backtracking is Newman. Thrown over the goal line by McVeigh. And behind will stand. It's a 4-point ball game. Sydney 57, Richmond 61, 19 gone last quarter.
Yeah, still plenty of time in this one. At least 7 minutes as Newman goes long. Was that out of bounds on the full? It was. How many times have the Tigers done that tonight? Off the boot of Martin, and that time off the boot of Newman, out of bounds on the full. It's a free kick for Grundy at half forward. He dabs it to the goal square. Goods is there again. So too is McVeigh. Working hard was Cunningham, but it's the captain. It's the captain for the Tigers who's kicked it out of bounds on the full. You wouldn't read about this.
It's just the pressure, Kelly. It's the amount of pressure on Trent Cotchin. He's been trying. He's throwing himself into this game, and he just typically got that ball just as he was falling over and off balance.
Well, a let off for Trent Cotchin because the Swans were unable to do anything with it. And we'll see a throw in here. 70 around from the Swans goal. It's Reid in front to Jack. Went without it, and then Mitchell just hacks it. It's going to land in the pocket. Goods sliding. Couldn't get there in time. And now a 50-50 ball, and they dive in. It's a pile up. McVeigh just continuing to lurk, the co-captain. He's threatening and threatening. He just can't get a good run at it. 6 and a bit minutes left. It's Richmond 61, the Swans 57.
Terrific stuff. Terrific stuff.
Towers again in ruck up against Griffiths. Comes to McVeigh. Bounces over the head of the man in the goal square, but Rance is good enough just to run back with the flight and bump it through for another rush behind. The Swans are creeping up in ones. It's a Richmond 9-7-61. Swannies 8-10-58. Almost 21 minutes played into the last term. Ellis to bring the ball back into play. He'll kick it to himself. He favours the western side again. Gets lots of distance in the kick. It's about 70 from the Swans' goal. Thumped down into the path of Jack, but it comes to Hanbury now. Reid, clever tap back to Jack on the outside of the boot to the hot spot. Out comes Goods again. Punched away. Chaplin comes up with the ball. Shrugs Jones. Kicks it into the centre. Gathered by Rampy. He's a booming kick. Goes the short pass. The tumbling ball. Towers clever. Oh, Dean Towers. Almost magnificent. Just couldn't bend it around enough on the outside of the boot. Another behind to Sydney, 8-11-59. The Tigers, 9-7-61, 21 and a half gone last quarter.
What do you do here, David? You've been under the pump for the last 5 minutes. You just continue to kick the ball in and it just keeps coming back.
And it will keep coming back now, the way they're set up. They've got to keep possession. They just can't clunk it long.
The anxiety levels have soared as Newman brings it back in looking for Marriage. Edwards does well. Keeps it in play. It's one-on-one. It's Martin v. Richards. Martin keeps his feet. No one's inside 50. Martin takes off. He's going to run into an open goal, and believe, Tigers fans, believe, Martin's kicked the goal. The margin is 8 points. 5 minutes remaining. Dustin Martin runs into an open goal, and the Tigers players are delirious.
And one bloke is Ted Richards, who in the ability to turn round, he fell over. He wasn't being, there's no contact with him. He's turned round and fell on the ground.
10-7-67 the Tigers plays the Swans. 8-11-59. 22 and a half minutes gone in the final term.
That makes up for Chaplin's slip earlier in the game.
Yeah, it does. That's one each. That's true.
Is that the implied pressure, David? I think at the start of the game you called Martin the best one-on-one player in the competition, or words to that effect.
Absolutely.
And there he was, yet again, as he's done so many times this year. Dustin Martin turned his man inside out. He held his feet. Richards didn't. The Tigers have a handy buffer again. Plenty of time to go. Malcheski burst through, taken around the thighs, brought to ground. Richmond pile in. Another ball up in the middle of the Olympic Stadium.
Well, they've just got to dig deep now, Richmond. They've got a scoreboard. That bit of play has given them a bit of a break on the scoreboard. Everything from every player, just contest after contest.
Griffiths wins the tap. Gets it down to Delidio, sends it inside attacking 50. Rampy and Revolt again. Revolt hanging on to Rampy. He holds his ground as big Jack Revolt goes backwards with the short pass. Excellent kick has got Griffiths.
Play on.
He wants to play on. He has called to play on. Kicks it inside to the top of the square. Only man there's Malcheski. And he marks and goes to the western side. Hard running coming there from Lloyd. Handball to Shaw. He's up to half back. Kicks to half forward. Rowan's got a couple to beat. Stretches, spoiled away. Chop of the arm, says the umpire. Just as Batchelor was about to set up the Tigers from half back. Rowan wants 50, forces Newman back. There's no 50, but Rowan will kick at 60. Inside attacking 50 in the forward pocket. Tippett wrestles with Chaplin, palms it down to Reid. Shrugs the tackle from the pocket. Sam Reid kicks another one. Reid's second goal. There's the quick reply. There's another twist in the tail for the Tigers. 10-7-67. Swans 9-11-65. It's a 2-point ball game again. 24 gone last quarter.
Well, just critical mistakes at both ends. Ted Richards falling over and Alex Rance missing the tackle when he had Reid like a dead duck here. Just had to wrap him up so he couldn't come back inside on his right foot and snap it from the pocket. But I'll tell you what, if the Swans win tonight, it's on the back of their tackling pressure, which at the moment is 84 to 51 tackles. They've just worn Richmond down, and I get the feeling they're just out-tackling them, out-working them, and that's why Richmond were wearing down in the third and this last quarter, but Jesus, exciting.
4 and a bit minutes left. Tigers by 2 points. They are fighting for their lives. Marich down to Miles. Umpire says no. We'll have another restart.
He's been, Kelly, he's still getting them, but he's not getting away. He got them early well, but now can't get them.
31,000 in at the Olympic Stadium for this absolute thriller. Taken high. It'll be a free kick to Miles.
He's been terrific.
What do you do here, David? Do you keep attacking if you're Richmond, or do you try and save the game?
Hold up. No, I know about just hold up. Don't go anything long and stupid.
So don't take risks? Do you think they need to take risks here?
I'm not. I would want to hold the ball. They're doing what they've been trained to do at the moment. And that's the coach's decision. They might have to let fly if they turn it over here. They get one against them. So
Miles goes backwards to Chaplin, who goes sideways to Batchelor, and then he kicks to a contest. Griffiths was there. Swans in Jack. His handball, though, was smothered. Delidio does well. He fires off the handball to Conker, who sends it to Martin at the top of the goal square. It's Martin and Richards again. Martin on the left. Don't tell me. Hits the post.
Now, you see him in action then. That's why we say he's probably the best contested one-on-one player in the competition. Brett Knight, he just did show then against Richmond, much taller than
And they've realised that Richards have to play on Martin because of the change with Rampy on Revolt early in the game.
Brilliant mark.
Cramping up Rance.
He's cramping.
He's had a huge night. He's been unbelievable.
He floated across the pack and took a really strong
give the ball to somebody
mark.
else. Yeah, give the ball to somebody else.
They lead by 3 points, milking the clock, still stretching. He goes by hand backwards to Delidio. He's got a little left foot poke in the Martin direction. The spoil came from Richards. It goes out of bounds at left half forward.
3 minutes 20 on the clock, Rob.
Yeah, and plenty of time to score. I mean, I'm thinking of Sydney, not Richmond.
Tigers lead by 3 points. They can sniff the finals action. They'll be up against Port Adelaide next week. It comes into Marich, the boundary throw-in. Ellis, grabbed by Jetta, got a handball away towards the boundary line. Another possession around the corner there by Miles. Bounces once and goes out of bounds, but it's in a good spot for Tigers fans at the left half forward, about 50 out from their goal to the southern end. They lead by 3.
What you knew about Miles? Would you predicted this?
A bit similar to Josh Kennedy at Hawthorn when he went to Sydney, and also Dom Tyson. They've gone on, they're really good players and living up, getting the most out of themselves at their new clubs.
So 3 minutes to go. It's held in. And it is the Tigers by 3 points. They led by 20 at quarter time after kicking the first 5 goals. By 13 at three-quarter time and by 13 at half-time and 5 at three-quarter time. Can they hold on? Is there any life left in them next week? Edwards are really high up and under Malcheski, all the experience in the world. Told to play on, so he squares it to Grundy. And then Grundy goes down the centre of the ground to the 100-game player in Jetta. Jetta flares it wide. Taking the mark was Lloyd. And then Lloyd to Rowan, who's got plenty of speed. It'll bounce here. How does it sit for him? In fact, it's Cunningham. Gets it over to Goods, who's brought down in a tackle by Ellis. It's holding the ball. Well done, Ellis. He took on Goods, he brought him down, and he wins the footy as Goods was looking to line up and go for goal.
Come on, they need some square-ups here.
Ellis short to Grigg. So they're determined to play this sort of keepies-off football at the moment and slow it down.
Nobody wants it, Kel. There's not too many moving into spaces to get it.
2 minutes. 3 points the difference. The Tigers lead. Martin in front. Can't quite bring it down. Parker to Hanbury. He takes off at half forward. Can he hit up Tippett? He makes Tippett work. Oh, it slips through Tippett's fingers. Well done, Rads. And then the Tigers see it over through Chaplin.
He's still asking Tippett. I think he was a bit hard done by, but just make the game good for us. Don't give him anything easy from this point on.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Yep.
20 metres out from the Swans' goal.
Every player within 30 metres of the ball. Every player.
Not much space from to work in. Tippett goes up. Both ruckmen miss the footy. Bashahuli comes to Cunningham. Comes to Jones. Sliding over the top of him. Play on. Well done, umpire. Didn't get conned. Zach Jones went in hard. Maybe in another moment, in another game, it might have been paid. This one wasn't.
Can you nudge those timekeepers next door to put their hand on the button, will you?
Richmond. Finals bound at the moment. Minute and a bit to go. Tippett wins the tap. Barging through without it was Bashahuli. Richmond clear this one. Up was Grigg. Only as far though as Rampy. Bounce off his chest. Clever by Malcheski. Got a toe to it. Rampy received from Shaw. Kicks towards full forward. Rance stands in amongst the pack and marks 20 metres out from the goal he's defending.
Cramp in the other leg.
Points to the wing on the western side. Tigers by 3.
Oh, it's going to be the longest minute and a half in Tigers fans' lives as Rance goes long out of bounds on the full.
That's 8.
I don't believe it. Out of bounds on the full, and Grundy says thanks. Picks it up quickly. A centering kick. The pack forms. Who can read it best? Chaplin and Rance.
Spread back. Come on, spread back.
They're like a brick wall down there at the moment, and the Swans players cannot penetrate it. So Chaplin, this time he goes for the safety of the wing, and a strong mark. Griffiths standing tall in the pack.
Being great at contested marks. Absolute key going into next week too is contested footy, contested marking. If they go into next week, they've got to had a good hit out tonight.
Tigers by 3 points. There's 30 seconds left. Brett Delidio has it, defensive side of the broadcast wing. He kicks to a contest. Tippett is there. And it beats Cochin to the footy, and so too Miles, who eventually sees it over. So a throw in at half forward here for Richmond. This is going to be the longest 17 seconds left for Tigers fans, Tigers players. Rob Cross on Grandstand AFL.
Tigers players know the runner goes out.
Thrown in right half forward. Marich grabbed it. Came to Zach Jones. Last chance Swans. Long ball towards half forward. A couple of Tigers drop back. Spill the mark. Goods. Taken there by Batchelor. Gives off to Vlosten. Long kick towards half forward. Rewald marks on his chest. That'll be it. He looks to the boundary and then punts the ball 70 metres skywards. Raises the right fist. Richmond win. Richmond play finals. Here's the best song in AFL footy.
A fighting fury with the Tiger Land. In any weather you will see us with
Richmond 10-8-68 have defeated the fast-coming, fast-happening Sydney Swans 9-11-65. They couldn't do it in the end, though. It was Richmond into the finals by 3 points. 4 to Delidio, 3 to Revolt, Martin, Miles and Gordon singles. And for the Swans, McVeigh, Hanbury, Tippett, Rowan, Towers, Parker and Goods all singles, and 2 to Sam Reid, including 1 in that last quarter. It's Richmond into the finals. The Swannies still have top spot. The Swannies to play Freo, the Tigers to play Port. They're 3-point winners at the Olympic Stadium.
A fighting fury, we're from Tigerland. In any weather you will see us with a grin, risking head and skin. If we're behind, then never mind, we'll fight and win. For we're from Tigerland. We never weaken till the final siren's gone. Like the tiger of old, we're strong and we're bold. For we're from Tiger, yellow and black. We're from Tigerland.
What a fantastic game. And the Richmond faithful behind the goals at the southern end, absolutely delirious. Their team have come, they've led by 33 points. They kicked 5 goals, 3-0 to start this game. Looked headed for a pretty solid victory. But as most expected, the Swans came back, hit the lead in the third quarter. But the Tigers were brave, they were big and bold, and they won this game by 3 points and will play finals. And that makes it 9 wins straight, David Parker, and that is one wonderful performance.
And it's not a bad, I guess, run of form to attack the finals. If you've won 9, why not 10?
Well, they're the most informed team in the competition heading into the finals, and Ken Hinkley would be sitting back going, that's a long flight he's got now from Perth to Adelaide, hasn't he, Parko? Because he's got a lot to think about.
Yeah, he has, and I just think for the faithful, and enough of them came tonight, they got enough energy up and sound to actually support their team. And I kept thinking it's going to fall over, and they kicked the ball 8 times out of bounds when they were in control, and not one of those was what you call a pressure and push to the side, was blokes who actually educated to kick just inside the boundary line, etc., and it cleared the boundary line by a mile. It gave the ball back 8 times in situations where it shouldn't have happened. So against the grain, I was just absolutely wrapped in the energy they were able to find, and they were done, I reckon, 6 or 7 minutes into the final quarter. They were looking for petrol tickets, and when we wanted them to keep possession at the finish, there wasn't one player putting his hand up and saying, I'll go backwards and sideways here so you can just relieve yourself out, give it to me. Not a single player put his hand up. Why? Not because they didn't want to, not because they didn't know what they should do, but just because they couldn't.
And that's why they were kicking it out of bounds on the full, because their only option was to kick it long down the line. You want to get it close, but not that close, and it just kept going over.
And there was what they'll be wrapped in is that their players, their leadership, Cochin, Delidio was absolutely for young Miles. He's an absolute gun, and whilst he wasn't getting clear at the finish, he was certainly hanging on to it and getting it first in the contest. Miles and Edwards were really good. Chaplin stood up, down, back. I was pleased about that. Martin going forward, where they were able to isolate him a couple of times. I think I might be right, isolate him one-on-one, and they took Richards away from him in the finish. As we knew before the game, he continually does that. If they could get it in reasonably quickly to one-on-one, he was able to do the job, and I think he had a shot in that situation that didn't even hit the face of the goal as well. One of those 8 at about. So they'd be pleased, Richmond, not just with the win, but the way that they hung in. When I kept thinking to myself, this can't go on. Sydney will kick 2 or 3 quick goals because they were the most skilled side. No doubt they did it easier and better when the time was to come, but very courageous effort that all Richmond people would be extremely proud of.
Well, they set it up in the first quarter, that 5-goal burst early on when the whips were cracking. I mean, you can see why they're playing finals footy on the back of the last 9 weeks. Their contested footy was outstanding. They beat the Swans at their own game in that regard, and that's what wins finals. That's what gets you into finals. And at the end, they were able to take a few key marks and think their way through the game. Yeah, there were patches there that we were nervous and had our hearts in our mouth for the Richmond team, for the supporters, because we know what they've gone through, and they're perennially 9th on the ladder. But look, they deserve it. They do deserve it. They came here with a plan, and they've been able to execute.
And the one we kept saying, 165 to 149 in terms of contested possession. The only thing that was a massive problem, they just don't work as well without the ball. Yeah. I mean, the 86 tackles that's a good finals effort, 80 plus, as you know, and they're still hovering around the 50s, and that's not acceptable because defence in the finish will win you September. Can't without it. So they'd be a bit disappointed with that, but there was no lack of effort. I just thought they were terrific. Even the players didn't have all that much of the ball. Morris did a reasonable job. Newman at cross half-back. Glaston did okay. Young Gordon didn't do enough, but he does super things which put together over time will make him a good footballer. Griffiths at the finish stood up and took that big mark here, and he shows the potential probably more than the bloke who Asprey that he replaced. I think I'd be going with him and not so concerned about the other. And even Rewald didn't have a great in between, but his start and his finish was enough to get them over the line.
And they've just chaired Chris Newman off the ground, down into the race, down into the rooms. Game 250. He's played one final in 14 years of football.
Amazing.
He's going to play his second final next week.
And he's still piling along, and he's not probably as fluent as he was, doesn't get as much of the ball as he was, but you're in a contest with him all the time, and his left foot finish is always good.
And there's no doubt this is why he's gone on. You can see the excitement and the potential of this group to possibly, well, they're there this year and potentially in the future.
And the other side too, let's look at the Mitchell, heavens alive, if we talk about people putting their hands up. Young Shaw I was pretty impressed with too with Sydney. So they've got two that if they stay in will be able to do the job. I know there's 4 or 5 coming back and you might think they're first out. Well, they shouldn't be first out. There are players in that side in my Biggs, Towers, Naismith, there's 3 I can think of that could make an impact. They're in a position to do so, but the other 2, Mitchell and Shaw, certainly gives them the depth to the 22 that you need if you're going to win finals. So whilst they lost the 4 points in a sense, hopefully no more injuries, I don't think Sydney lost too much tonight.
Well, they've played once before this year. It was during this long run of wins, the Tigers. They beat Port Adelaide by 20 points, pretty convincingly. So they would go in that with a fair bit of confidence. And what a fine line it is. Bryce Gibbs today had a shot for goal with about 60 seconds to go. It went right to the line, and for some reason, the Carlton forwards didn't knock it through for a behind. Carlton win that game, and then Richmond would have finished 7th, and they wouldn't have to travel to Port Adelaide next week.
Sure, doesn't it?
Incredible
it is. And that closes us off, didn't we?
That's it.
Sunday we can stay in Sydney instead of going home, can't we?
So bad Monday tonight, is it, Parker? Or are you saying the Harbour City?
The Harbour
Silly
City,
Saturday.
So that's the finals done. It'll be Sydney Freo, it'll be Hawthorn Geelong, it'll be Port Richmond, it'll be Kangas Essendon.
How good's that?
And Tommy Hafey would be looking down with a smile because it's the first time since 74-75 that the Tigers have made consecutive final series. And the last time they did it, obviously, Parko, Tommy was the coach.
And I talked to Maureen just yesterday, and she was as nervous as Tommy would have been. Yes, it was. It was a lovely conversation, and she had everything crossed. She said toes, legs, fingers, the whole lot, eyes and everything. She said across to, and she'll be one that'll be sitting back at home tonight. Not so much glorying in it, but being so proud of the Richmond boys.
It's terrific.
Who's doing 3-2-1?
That's I'll leave it to the expert over there, although he mightn't want to.
What do you got, Steve?
For my 3-2-1, I thought the Richmond captain was outstanding all night on the back of his efforts. He's had 29 possessions, and you just want the ball in his hands. He's so clean in these conditions. I thought early when the guys were adjusting to the greasy conditions, he was certainly one that adjusted and used the ball really well. What's he had there?
11 contested
possessions as well. So he was definitely to be considered. I thought Alex Rance in defence, being a defender myself, I really rate his game really highly defensively, but also to stand up at the end and take that contested mark was really important. He was just really important all night. He curtailed Kurt Tippett, who in the second quarter was leading up, taking marks and going back and kicking goals. So he was really important. And the other one was probably Shane Edwards. I thought throughout the midfield, also up forward, he was one who created opportunities all night for Richmond, and he just snuck in for a vote for mine.
So Cochin, Rance and Edwards.
Yep.
No Swannies?
No.
Ooh. Well, they were certainly dominant early, the Tigers, and they've won the game, and they've worked their way into the top 8.
I gave him the wrong information. The contested possession for Cochin was 21, and his clearances were 11. I mean, that's quite... 21. The nearest player, I'm trying to think the nearest player might have been Mitchell with 12. In terms of, I know 13 was Miles, the one I talked about, Edwards 14. So you've got them right, because, I mean, it was generated because of their possession winning. which set them up at the start of the game. It was still the same blokes who were winning possession, not getting the same result from that clearance or it, but not allowing the Swans to get it. Because when the Swans did get it, they were better at executing the release and the space for the bloke on the end of it to do something more with the ball. And they were the more skillful side, no doubt about it. Swans played the game in possession of the ball as well as anybody, and they did that tonight. But they were denied possession in a manner which, must admit, I didn't think that Richmond could go the full 120 minutes with the same intensity. They hung in, they really hung in, and should be very, very proud, I reckon, of the way they've gone about it and the fact that they got over the line.
In about 20 seconds, David and Steve, who wins the premiership? Finals are locked in now. Who wins the flag?
Well, I think it'll be out of Hawthorn and Sydney.
I agree. Yeah, going into this round, I thought it was Sydney's to lose. They get their boys back next week. Hawthorn are getting all their boys back too. Brian Lake will look after Hawkins next week. You would have thought they'll probably both, at the moment, host preliminary finals, and that gives you the best chance of making the grand final. So,
Steve Gillam, thanks for all your help this year, mate. It's been absolutely wonderful. All the best in retirement.
Thanks
Good luck.
very much.
Happy birthday for Tuesday.
Cheers.
Kelly, lovely to work with you again. David Parkin, an honour to have you up here for this wonderful game of footy. Thanks very much for taking the trip up from Melbourne to old Sydney town. Phil Ullman, thanks very much for working all the controls. Dave Mark on the boundary. Shannon Byrne, our normal boundary rider, recovering from a broken foot. She was always helping us out, feeding us ice creams and just general camaraderie in the commentary box here. No, it was absolutely wonderful. The Tigers are into the finals. They finished 8th with a 3-point win over the Sydney Swans, 10-8 to 9-11. Enjoy your footy. The finals are upon us.
Mum, this is who I've always been on the inside. I came here to show you who I really am.
New on DVD, Carlotta, based on the life of the iconic Les Girls headliner and transgender pioneer. Starring Jessica Murray, it is a universal story about identity, tolerance and acceptance. Carlotta is an uplifting celebration of finding your place in the world and making your mark against all odds. Carlotta, available now from ABC shops, centres, shop online and DVD retailers.